Good evening. Welcome to the August 27th meeting of the Derry Cooperative School District. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So thank you for everyone who showed up tonight and watching on TV. I hope everyone had a great first day of school. I wouldn't know. My daughter never showed up after school, so I'll find out later how it went. All right, to start off, we have the non-public. I take a motion to approve the non-public minutes from August 6th.
Moved.
First by Jason. Second by Jonathan. All in favor?
Aye.
So we have two abstentions, right? We got Wilbert and Katie, so it's 5-0-2. I will take a motion for the public minutes for August 6th.
So moved.
First by Jason.
Second.
Second by Jonathan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, same. Motion passes 5-0-2. All right, so I will open up delegations and individuals. You have 3 minutes. Give your name, address for the record.
Tracy Zisk, 5 Silver Street. First off, welcome back, everyone. I just had a couple things I just wanted to kind of bring to attention and kind of go over since it's a new school year. I did review the survey results online, and I know you'll talk about that later tonight. I think it was fabulous, the amount of support that the teachers got and the programs. The parents are really thrilled with what's going on in the classroom. It was also overwhelming, 50% or more of how the financials are being handled within the district. So, I mean, there's no questioning that. It's a new year. I've been coming to these meetings for 7 years. I'm now number 8. We know that. We've had the consultants, we've had the tests, we've had the surveys, we've had the face-to-faces. We need a clean start. Let's start tonight and move forward. And with that, the financials, unfortunately, it's become so personal with many of you. It's not this board. It's not the previous board. It's years and years and years, and it's built up to what has caused the problem. The general public understands that. It's just individuals, you take it so personally, like, but we are doing this, or we did that, or we did this. But we have a problem. And now we need to move forward, and we need to fix that problem. And instead of being the victim or being the bad guy, now you guys can all be the heroes, and you can correct the problem. It's a new year. You've spent your hundreds of thousands of dollars on consultants, and the results were always the same. We did not want a new school, and we want to invest in South Range. That is across the board. So there's no more questioning it. We went to the ballot. The taxpayers came. 80% told you what we wanted. Now you need to make it happen. You were elected. You wanted these jobs. You knew the challenges. It's going to be difficult. The money's not there. I of all people know that. I've been here with you. But you always say, what are your solutions? I've given you several suggestions. And Jonathan, you're the king of, what's your solution? What's your solution? You will always say that. Well, now the time is for your marketing. You have warrant items to work on. No greed this year. No $100 million new school. We don't need it. We voted it down. Let's not even discuss it. Now you can focus on the repairs and renovations. And that's an easier sell, and it's a heartfelt sell to a community that is property poor. And after these next tax bill, things are going to be really crazy in Derry. And my neighborhood, as you know, Sunset Acres, nobody moves. Houses are for sale left and right. But we also have schools that need to be fixed and repaired. And we need decisions to stick. And why I'm up here speaking is because I'm going into year number 8. We've saved South Range 3 times. We've now gone to ballot. And what will happen is a couple board members will get elected because there's elections this year and a couple seats are up. And what happens year after year, and it is fact, conversations change. And then we go in a circle. Well, that was the older board. That was a different time. Let's revisit this. No. The taxpayers went to the ballot in March, and we spoke loud and clear. I just kindly ask that you respect that, and now all of you learn to get along and come up with a game plan so we can all move forward. None of you have to be best friends. You don't. But we are in a crisis here, and we need schools to be fixed, to find the money somehow, some way. And the best way to do it is with warrant items and to start educating the general public now. Thank you.
Not only do I reside here in... Don't go so close. Am I okay? All right. So not only am I a dad and a granddad of kids that went through the school system and that are going to come up to the school system and go through these schools, I went to South Range in readiness, first grade and third grade. I was here in Derry since the 70s. I had family go to Pinkerton since the 70s, going through the system. Well, we need to really, not be divided by lanes in politics here, because I'm here to reach the good hearts, and I'm an adult, know right from wrong, as everyone on this board. I made mistakes, but I corrected my mistakes. And now I'm here at a school board. My kids aren't active in school right now, but my grandbabies are gonna be. So I'm here to bring awareness to every heart on this board, okay? We already put 3 notices into the state of New Hampshire. We served the state capitol, we served the DOJ, we served every sheriff, we served every court. We hand-delivered what I'm gonna hand all of you to U.S. Army, to National Guard, to Space Force, and to the Commander-in-Chief, Donald J. Trump. On here and in this paperwork, you have Executive Order 13848. That's election interference. You guys are all elected officials and under oath of office to serve we the people, to assure that you are being our voice. Well, our kids aren't in this room right now, so I'm here being their voice, so they can keep their choice. We got things being voted on, letting boys in girls' locker rooms, playing on girls' sporting teams. It's unacceptable. So basically, I'm here to bring awareness to everybody on this board, including the superintendents that aren't elected officials. They're hired, okay, to serve we the people in this town, Derry, New Hampshire. So you're going to be, you might not be an elected official, but every elected official in New Hampshire falls under this. There's charges in here for democide. That's the government that kills you on purpose. Genocide, sedition, treason, and misprision of treason. And if anybody doesn't know the U.S. Code for misprision of treason, it's knowing that treason's going on and you're not reporting it. We know there's treason going on. There's also Executive Order 13818. Okay, that's human rights abuse. Those were Donald Trump's executive orders, and Joe Biden extended them 3 years in a row. They're active today and they're alive today. So you're responsible for the actions you're making. You're responsible for the decisions you're making that affect all of our kids and our grandbabies and our communities. We're all in this together. You're supposed to be our voice. You're supposed to be the trusted ones to hold the fate of our children and our grandbabies in your hands and in your hearts. Holding it in your hands is delicate, but if you hold it in your hearts, you can't make that stuff up. You either have a good heart or you don't. Do the right things, make the right choices, and you're taking federal money. It's fraudulent. It's part of the U.S. Inc. We are a republic. We're not a democracy. I'm public, you're public, and we're from the almighty source.
Wrap it up, sir.
So alls I need to do is ask for permission to hand each one of you guys a copy of this. This is not charges to you personally. This is to bring awareness to you, for you to know what's going on in the state of New Hampshire. So I want to make that very clear. Doesn't matter, Democrat or Republican. It's all about the hearts here. It's all about making the right choices. Everything's outlined, everything that's been cast in. We hand delivered all this to the military. No joke, it's video proof. Everything has been said.
Have a good night.
Can the assistant superintendent and the superintendent share that copy to make sure the secretary gets one?
If someone's in the same office.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, good evening. So the first day of school today? Bunch of crying kids? No. I know I used to cry when I had to go to school. I never wanted summer to end. Oh, by the way, my name is Richard Tripp, 44 Wyndham Road. I attended the facilities committee, I think it was last week. And I was a little disheartened to find out that you guys are still, not you guys, the board or the committee is still trying to hit the home run. You know, you've heard the story about, you know, how you win ball games? You win it by base hits, you know, not home runs. Of course, that's the way it used to be. Nowadays, I think it's all home runs. Anyhow, but it seemed like you were still thinking that you wanted to put together a plan to have a warrant for like $35 million or something. And that in my mind is the home run. You know, that would hopefully fix all your problems, but I don't think that the public is going to go for that. You know, as the lady before me said, you know, assessments are up. Possibility is that taxes are going to be up, and you know, the ask for another, you know, $30 million or $25 million or whatever it is not going to fly. You know, so at the last meeting, I suggested that you take a look at what it costs to fix the high priority items and put a warrant in for that. You know, because that'll get, you know, the high flying issues resolved, and start working on, you know, taking little bites of fixing the rest of the problems. You know, because I believe the town will support that. But a $25 or $30 million warrant, I think you're going to be disappointed, and you'll be another year with the schools degrading just a little bit more. So, you know, think about it, and hopefully we'll have a good school year. Thank you.
Good evening, board members, administrators, Madam Secretary. My name is Tom Carden, 2 Cunningham Drive. I just wanted to kind of follow up on what Richard Tripp said. I think $35 million is going to be a tough sell for you to the voters and the taxpayers. As you know, I've been an advocate of getting these buildings fixed, and as I've come to these meetings the last couple of months, I've I see you pretty much divided. I think 4 of you, David, Michael, Jonathan, Jason, I think you're all pretty much locked in, and I think you probably know what you're going to vote for and what you're going to need. I just think that the other 3, in all honesty, I think you need to step up to the plate and start being part of the process, because what I've seen the last couple of months, you're not. And I don't know what the right or wrong answer is. I think last year you put $38 million out. That was the wrong answer because it didn't get approved. I think nobody's going to dispute the fact that the schools need to be fixed. They do. But I think you're going to need to come up with something that's going to be acceptable to the taxpayers, because as Richard said, if $35 million doesn't make it, you're going to be behind, another year. So anyway, good luck. And I just want to thank all the administrators for everything that they've done for the last year for, the budget and, reorganizing the schools. I think you did a really good job, and I want to thank you.
Good evening. Jim Dietzel, 1100 Drive. And I too want to echo what Mr. Tripp and Mr. Carden said. 35 million, folks, is not going to cut it. I've talked to a lot of people very recently. We're in the process now of building a very visible new fire station, which is a very expensive project. It's not the same as what you folks want to do, obviously, with the schools, but the taxpayers don't know the difference. When we start throwing out all these big projects and these big dollar signs at them, they wince. I've attended some meetings, and they've discussed some of the needs of the schools, and I think they're all worthy projects. And I'd love to give you guys $35 million so that we can fix them all at once. But I've studied the problem and discussed it, and I understand how important some of these projects are. Out there in the public, folks, it's a dollar sign, and it's a big one. 35 million is a lot. And especially if we take on a project maybe that'll take 2 years to complete, we're going to grow weary of these endless projects. Let's fix West Running Brook with its bricks falling off, and then herald that to the people. Look what we did with your $10 million, and then go on to the next one. Not everything has to be done immediately. Some of the stuff can be pushed back. Would I like it to be done immediately? Yeah. Would I vote for the 35 million? Yeah, I would, because I want all these things done. I want the best for the schools. I want the best for the kids. I want the best for us. It's not going to fly out there. I've talked to too many people saying we're spending too much money at once. And so just please think about the taxpayer out there who doesn't really delve into these issues the way that we might as insiders. And when again, the town administrator emphasizes over and over that just because your property tax or your property assessment has gone up doesn't mean that your property taxes necessarily are, because as values go up, the rates go down. People don't understand that, no matter how many times we emphasize that. Like, oh my goodness, my property went up 30%, now I'm going to get a big bill. There's a lot of sticker shock out there, and I think we're still in a recovery mode economics-wise where the people are just weary. Let's try and get something passed and get something that will benefit us, at least in the short term. Thank you.
Going, all right, we'll move on, but before we move on, I'll just take a moment to address some of the comments, because I know not everyone stays till the very end when we have some of our board member comments or even facilities. So I think at the last meeting or the meeting prior, 35 million was off the table, I would say. We were somewhere in the range of 25 to 30. I don't know if that makes a difference, but that's where we're currently, where we sit today. So that could change, obviously, but when we left that meeting, I think most of us were in that 25 to $30 million range, and obviously that's not final or anything like that. Those are the recent numbers we've been talking about, just to kind of tell everyone out there. And the one thing I'll say is, not to get into too long of a diatribe here, but somebody I think Tracy brought up, 80% of the population voted against a new school. So when you vote against a new school, the one thing people have to understand is South Range will need to be made long-term. And, the numbers will be out there and you'll see the numbers, and they're not pretty. If you want a $15 million bond, you got 2/3 of it going to South Range. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about the discussions we're having, and obviously we'll get into more detail as time goes on, but I just wanted to kind of, because there's a lot of new faces out here that I haven't seen before, so I wanted to kind of throw that out there of some of the prior discussions we've had and the listings that we've seen. And when you throw in West Runningbrook, $3 million, then you're at 13 million. Just think of that as well. And that's 4 projects, guys. A roof, facade, HVAC, and banding around West Runningbrook. $13 million, 4 projects. So just keep that in mind. And believe me, I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree with your saying. I worry about what you just said and not getting the funds based on the sticker shock. So, as a board, all 7 of us will come to hopefully a consensus of what that looks like, and hopefully we can do the best job we can to galvanize the community and get the education out there to people who we don't usually see in the audience in the community, which is always a tough task to hit 60%. So we have our work cut out. I think we're all committed to getting there. And hopefully in the next month or so, we'll have finalized numbers to do that. And obviously the comments tonight are very well taken. My comments are just kind of the other side of the coin, just so you understand what we're looking at. When you say important priority projects, I think when you look at half of 25 million or $26 million is 2 schools, or 1.5 schools, if you want to call it that, whatever you want to call it. So I just wanted to say that before we move on, because just in case people leave and don't hear this later in the conversation. Next, we have Austin with personnel.
Thank you, David. Okay, first, I want to introduce 2 guests from Grinnell Elementary School, Principal Melissa Lance, who will be introducing her new assistant principal.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Lance, the principal at Grinnell. This is my 7th year at Grinnell, and we had a great... We had a great first day of school today, so I just wanted to share that before moving on. This is Lindsay Moore, my new assistant principal. Lindsay comes to us from the Atlanta area. She's been here since about the first week of August and is getting settled in nicely. She's meeting a lot of families, students, getting to know our teachers, and she's been a great addition to our team. So I'm going to let her talk a little bit about her background.
Hi, everyone. Hope you can hear me. I'm Lindsay Moore. Like Ms. Lance shared, I'm the new assistant principal at Grinnell Elementary. It's been a very welcoming couple of weeks. Like she mentioned, I moved here from the Atlanta area with my family for my husband's job, and was very excited to be provided the opportunity to work here in Derry. I previously was a middle school assistant principal for 6 years. Prior to that, I was a math instructional specialist, so I supported elementary math K-5 for 3 years. And prior to that, I had 8 years of classroom teaching experience at the elementary level. So everyone has been really welcoming here, and I've enjoyed my time so far in Derry, getting to build relationships with the staff, students, and families.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How big was that middle school you were at?
This year, there are 1,800 students.
Okay.
The district is rather large.
I look at your background and say it's a perfect background for the Derry Cooperative School District with your elementary as well as middle school. And I enjoyed our discussion when we met, and very excited to have you on board, and the start of another excellent team over at Grinnell, and happy that your hubby got a job up here so we could get you up here as well. So
Thank you.
thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you out in the school.
Thank you.
I know we met earlier. Do you have any other questions you guys want to ask? You good? Awesome. Well, thank you very much and welcome. So I will take a motion. You want to do this one first and do the rest? Okay. I'll take a motion to vote in Lindsay Moore as the Grinnell Assistant Principal.
So moved.
Move to approve.
Oh, first by Brenda, sorry.
Second.
Second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. Have a great school year. So Austin, at this point, Austin, we're good with all administrative positions at the district?
Yes.
Perfect.
Well, no. I will be talking as part of my report. We are still looking for a second assistant director of student services.
We can talk about it. Okay.
Yep.
All right, you're up again.
Okay, so thank you again, school board, for giving me the opportunity to nominate so that we can move real quickly during the summer months so that we don't lose any of our new people. I'm going to run through the list as a whole and give you their name and what they're doing and where they're doing it. And then after we go through them all, we hopefully will vote in the affirmative. So we have Danielle Accorto, classroom teacher, Ernest P. Barker Elementary School. Chloe Sina, special education teacher, Grinnell Elementary School. Elizabeth, but she goes by Beth Cornelius, school nurse, West Running Brook Intermediate School. Beth will be released from her contract with her current school district on August 30th. She's over there training her new replacement, and will be back, will start with us this coming Tuesday, September 3rd, right after Labor Day. We were looking forward to that. Stephanie Doyle, District ESOL teacher for West Running Brook Intermediate School and Gilbert H. Hood Middle School. Jennifer Foisey, classroom teacher, East Derry Memorial Elementary School. Kiara Francis, wellness teacher, Gilbert H. Hood Middle School. Alyssa Grant, classroom teacher, South Range Elementary School. Jennifer Hanois, classroom teacher, East Derry Memorial Elementary School. Stephanie Luzadis, special education teacher, Ernest P. Barker Elementary School. Marianne Pittman, English Language Arts, social studies teacher at West Running Brook Intermediate School. Sarah Quimby, classroom teacher, East Derry Memorial Elementary School. Bernice Saranita, music teacher, West Running Brook Intermediate School. Megan Seralt, special education teacher, West Running Brook Intermediate School. And Jessica Warwick, classroom teacher, South Range Elementary School.
All right, I'll take a motion to approve those current hires. First by Brenda.
Second.
Second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes 7-0. Congratulations. Austin, in your update, can you just give an update on the district on what's left to our needs?
That is part of my superintendent report. And I just want to say, when you go through a list like this, and HR is still working, but our human resource department, Director Kathy Kennedy, and recruiter Kim Kelly, and admin assistant Mary Ellen Tagliatella. They have worked extremely hard and diligently, and they've done a great job. So have our administrators and the teachers that have been involved on some of the interview teams and so forth and so on. And I want to thank the Human Resource Department especially, but everybody else that assisted. As we all know, recruiting is a little bit more difficult in this day and age. And when you look at the wonderful teachers, for those of us that are here that can see them sitting in our out here in the audience, as well as administrators, we hire great people here, and for some reason they stay, and we're very excited about that. And I just once again want to thank everybody for the work they've done, and the work continues, as you'll find out in my superintendent report when I read the positions that are still available.
Thank you, Austin. Jane, so we have audit report. Oh, no, we don't have any.
I'm going to assume that I cut them off at the bottom. We have two resignations that I apologize. We have two resignations that I would like you to accept with regret. Somebody help me out here. Regret. Thank you. Appreciate that. Alyssa Burnham, and South Range Elementary School, and Erin Kelly, Gilbert H. Hood Middle School.
Move to accept with regret.
First by Jason, second by Brenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0.
Does anybody need the audit report here? You want to introduce it? I don't know.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the 22-23 audit, and I would like to welcome Scott McIntyre, one of the partners at Markham, who is going to give you a brief overview of the audit report that we just recently finalized for 22-23. As you know, we're working on 23-24 right now. So I know it's a little late in us presenting it, but time-wise, we just weren't able to make it work out. So welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Jane, and members of the school board, thank you for the invitation to come in tonight. As the business administrator said, I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough of our audit of your financial statements. It's my understanding there were two documents supplied in your packages. One is about a 5-page letter. I refer to that as the governance letter, and then you have your basic financial statements. It's my intention tonight to walk through the governance letter, and I'll explain, really that's the key communication in our opinion. And then I'll hit some highlights in the financial statements, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through the financial statements. But with that said, if I can begin with the governance letter. I refer to it as the governance letter because our professional standards require that we report this information to those charged with governance. That's the phrase in the professional standards. And as a result, it's just really become commonly, it's just a common way to categorize it as the governance letter. This tells you what we did, and it tells you the results of what we did. It starts by telling you we audited your basic financial statements. It tells you about what our responsibilities are and what the school district's responsibilities are. That really begins on page 1. On the second page, there's some significant audit matters that need to be discussed. One of the required communications is any significant risks that we identify as part of our planning and execution of the audit. And we recognize two that I need to report to you tonight. One is the recognition of revenue as a significant risk, and the other is management override of internal controls. Now, I will tell you that in every audit, the professional standards require that the auditors identify those two things as significant risks. So it's not something unique to the school district here in Derry. Those are almost mandatory items for us to identify and assess risk at a significant level, and therefore it requires us to do additional test work, particularly on revenue. Is it recognized in the proper fiscal year? And where could management override the overall internal control structure of the district? And we address those risks in our audit planning and in our audit execution. Some other things that our professional standards require us to communicate is that there are a number of significant estimates in your financial statements, the largest of which are your net pension liability, your net OPEB liability, and some of the related accounts, the deferred inflows, outflows, and expense. We are, by definition, independent from the school district, and as a result, we also need to tell you that when we perform what is known as a non-audit service, we're hired to do the audit. With that, we also provide the service to the school district here, as we do for virtually all of our clients, of actually pulling the financial statements together, taking your trial balances, converting them to the accrual basis of accounting, and putting the document together. That's a non-audit service that my professional standards require me to communicate that to you. Again, nothing to be concerned about. The last part of the governance letter talks about any disagreements with management. It's a very short paragraph, so I'm very happy to be able to report that there were no disagreements with management on how to apply generally accepted accounting principles. And I think the one I forgot to talk about, it was certainly written up in here, is that we did not need to propose any significant audit entries as a result of our test work in order for your financial statements to be materially fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. With that, that's sort of the required communication. I'd like to very quickly move into the basic financial statements. And if you go to page 1 of that document, it'd be print page 1. And if you have it, wonderful. If not, I'm only going to hit on some high points. And if you don't have it, I think you'll be able to have some good takeaways from what the audit is telling you. Page 1 is our opinion on your financial statements. It's what is known as a clean, or technically it's called an unmodified opinion. It means that in our opinion, based on the auditing standards that we have applied to your books and records, in our opinion, your financial statements are materially fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles here in the United States of America. Again, commonly referred to as a clean audit opinion. Technically, I would call it a unmodified opinion. There are no modifications for being in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Very quickly, if you have the report, it's over on page 12. I'd like to turn very quickly. There are essentially both a long-term perspective set of financial statements in here and a shorter-term perspective. Page 12, or print page 12, is what I call the long-term perspective balance sheet, or technically it's called a statement of net position. The only thing I want to point out here, because we just think any conversation about a local government's financial statements should address the net pension liability and the net OPEB liability of the district. If you look, obviously there's just one column of numbers. About 2/3 of the way down the page in the non-current liability section, you see your net pension liability and net OPEB liability. $51 million in the pension, $12 million in OPEB. OPEB is an acronym for Other Post-Employment Benefits. What it's really getting at is retiree health care. There's a lot of talk out there in local governments about these two liabilities. I just feel a professional responsibility to point them out. The other thing I think is important to recognize with the pension liability, you are on a funding schedule with the New Hampshire retirement system. I believe your funding schedule matures in about 16 years. So you keep doing what you're doing for another 16 years, and that liability, assuming all the assumptions are met, which they fluctuate, but assuming the assumptions are met, that liability will come down to zero. OPEB's another issue. I can talk more about that if the school board would like. With that, if I could turn over to print page 14. This is, if the other page was the long-term perspective, this is the short-term perspective balance sheet. Quite honestly, this is the first place that most readers of your financial statements will turn. They will look at that first column of numbers and their eyes will focus on the third number up from the bottom, or your unassigned fund balance, with an account balance as of June 30, 2023 of just under $2.2 million. Again, that's the third number up from the bottom in the first column of numbers, the general fund. That's the fund I'm really going to talk about tonight. The other two funds are major funds, and that's a technical term in governmental financial reporting. But the focus really is on the general fund. Now, a year ago, that unassigned fund balance was about $4.8 million. So clearly it's now $2.6 million. I don't think that's going to surprise any of the readers here, because you used that $4.9 million towards the subsequent year, in your fiscal year 23 budget. So a year ago it was 4.8. You used those dollars to reduce taxes, essentially bringing that down to zero. However, budgetary results of operations in fiscal year 2023 were about the 2.2 million favorable, both the revenue side and the expenditure side. Combined, the positive budgetary results were about $2.2 million, and that's essentially how you achieved a June 30, 2023 unassigned fund balance of $2.2 million. Start of the year at 4.8, you used the 4.8, budgetary results of operations were about $2.2 million, and here you are at the end of this fiscal year, or the fiscal year ended 6/30/23, with a key account balance of $2.2 million. One other account I would want to point out, if we were talking about the third number up from the bottom, I would point out two numbers above that, the committed fund balance of $2 million, about 1.8 of that is the capital reserve for roofs. Okay? That was also something that was, action was taken in fiscal year 2023. So really those are the highlights of the, of both our audit and your key account balances on both a long-term perspective and in this general fund perspective, which is really a short-term perspective, almost a cash basis. Not technically cash basis, but almost. And again, from my perspective, the key communication really is the governance letter, where, you know, we think the audit went well. The books and records, we found them to be in good working order, and most importantly, we did not need to propose any significant audit entries as a result of our test work. So with that, I'll turn it back to the chair and try to answer any questions that the school board may have.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the overview. Good news. And Jane, obviously, good job, you and your team on this. Awesome. I expect the same for 24, so. But we need that fund balance to be a little higher, right? Unfund, whatever. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you, Scott. And of course, I just want to make sure I name all of those who were, had a part in always with our financials and our year-end audit. Mary Webster, Steve Schaefer, Patty Doyle, Liz Emis before she retired, and formerly Bill Roy. He was working prior to doing the audit. So I just want to make sure I thank them for all their work, for all the financials that they do every day. And I think clean audit is what we used to refer to as findings. So it's called clean now, but no findings.
All right, Anthony, you're up. What's the good word over at Pinkerton?
Well, I'll deflect most of my activity-based comments to the next meeting, because that'll be more closer to start of sports and all that. But I will say two things. One, building construction is going along really well. The social studies wing is expected to be completed by December and occupied with classes by January. So we are on time. And the other thing is that for half of us, school starts tomorrow. Freshmen and sophomores are tomorrow. And Thursday, juniors and seniors. So I'll leave it at that, and the rest of it will be next meeting. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Anthony. So we have a curriculum update. Kim and Joe.
Hey everybody, thanks for having us. Before we actually have some teachers here with us that we'd like to bring up in just a minute and share a little bit of the work that we've been doing this summer on curriculum. But prior to them coming up, we did want to share just a little bit of some really fun, interesting things that went on toward the end of the summer. One thing that I think Kim and I are proud of is that, and some of the people that are here participated and actually taught some classes. We put on what we call the Professional Learning Academy. It was the week that teachers returned. It was Monday the 19th and Tuesday the 20th of August. And really what that was is we put together a bunch of professional learning opportunities for teachers. I'm going to just pull up my notes so I get it right. And so we had about 65 teachers that signed up to participate, to come in during their summer vacation and take some classes. Just for what that's worth, that's a little more than 20% of our professional teaching staff. So that's not a small number. There were 20 different sessions that we offered, 12 different course offerings. Some of them, happened more than once. Things like emergency management. We had a crisis prevention and intervention. If you ever heard of CPI, that's a term that we often use. There were some CPI classes that went on. We did some CARES training, which I think Mitch is going to talk a little bit about tonight. We did some classroom management. Cliff did some trainings on Magic School AI that were very, very popular among teachers. So really great. We're really proud, happy to do that. We just sent out a survey to all of our participants to find out what can we do better next time. Do they like the timing? Some of our sessions were virtual, but most were all face-to-face. So we're looking to get some feedback about that. So that was very exciting. I'll let Kim talk a little bit about new teachers.
So we also had new professional orientation day. So we were so excited. That was on the 19th. It was Monday. We had we invited all of the new professionals to come to meet with Joe and I. We went over some essential things for the district that we have to do. We got them acquainted with their computers, and we had different district leaders came in to discuss things. We had some team building things. We had some great laughs, and we built some community. So we are excited to really work alongside them this year. It was a great day, full of energy. So that was great.
It was great. And now we'll talk a little bit more some more detail about curriculum. We got
We did a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot that went on, but we're not gonna bore you with all the details. I'm gonna say no thanks to this, Cliff. All right, do you want to go first before we bring these people
Yep.
up? All right.
All right, so we embarked this summer on revamping our K-6 curriculum. So with this restructuring that took place, it was a really great opportunity for us to create a more cohesive and responsive learning environment for our students. The process began with a deep dive into our data. I first analyzed all of the state assessment data from last year. Then I looked at the student growth data from our NWEA assessment, and we got teacher feedback. The data showed me that while our students were progressing, there were some pockets of foundational gaps that needed to be addressed, particularly in literacy and in math. Through these findings, I decided to build a more consistent curriculum across the K-6, ensuring vertical alignment. So we decided to standardize some certain elements while still allowing for flexibility that was needed to cater to our student needs so that we could meet their needs based on data. We also recognize the importance of incorporating social emotional learning intentionally. Research shows that students who were more engaged in a supportive community performed better academically. So we're integrating CARES into our core subjects, making it a natural place, part of the learning process for the students. Throughout the summer, the curriculum teams worked really tirelessly to align this new curriculum to these goals. So you will hear now from some of my team members who are behind me, ready to go, as they will give you some highlights of our work. So first, I will have Erin Chernard come up. And she is our elementary learning coordinator, and she will talk to you a little bit about our English language arts and what we did there.
Hi, everyone. Good to see everyone again and provide some information about what we did in ELA over the summer and kind of how we got there and where we're going. So with Kim's research, we really learned that we needed to align more with our standards and best practices really to support our teachers. And that is what I'm most excited about, is our work really supports teachers and our students' learning. So I was able to work with teachers, talk with teachers to really build what we found they needed the most and incorporate it to support them. So one of the big things we worked on was integration of foundational skills. So what that looks like is really building procedures. So this was so great today. I got to be in all of our elementary schools today, and I watched teachers walk their kids around the building and show them how to get to the library. And they went through their reading procedures and how to check out a book and how their classroom library works. So a real focus on building those routines so we can go slow to really get fast and dive into curriculum once we get our NEWA testing back and all those pieces. So they're working on grammar, so when they get to writing, they can have strong writing skills. they're working on phonemic awareness, so when they are ready to read, that they have the phonemic awareness within them. So we do that with UFly and word study. So those are all things we really wanted to hone in on, especially in September and October, so we can build really strong readers and writers. The next thing we looked at was writing across different genres. So typically, informational text, narrative text, opinions are all done in this kind of segmented way. What we found, and I particularly found when we were doing the state testing, is our students don't know what kind of writing they'll get until that test is put in front of them, which can be really anxiety provoking from some of our students. So this allows them to get used to all different kinds of writing throughout the year. So when they go to sit for some of these tests, we've supported them, and they're able to have those foundational skills to really support them in feeling successful in their work. And then also thinking, in elementary school, we don't think about careers down the road, but we truly are getting them ready for college and careers, even at the elementary school level. So they need to know to do all different types of writing. They need to know how to use spreadsheets. They need to know how to do opinions and all those pieces. So we wanted to make sure we were supporting the whole learner by doing writing across the day. And then lastly, an additional focus on digital literacy. In this day and age, a lot of students know a lot of things about a different technology, and they need to know that to be successful in whatever the path takes them moving out of elementary school into middle school. And that's as early as our kindergarten teachers. We're lucky to be one-to-one, and we all have Chromebooks, so we really want to teach students how to use those. So that looks like research skills, evaluating different kind of resources, knowing from fact from opinion, what is a scholarly resource, what is a website that might share an opinion, and how do we look at that different thing. Collaboration tools, so whether they're using a slide deck or Google Docs, learning how to use all of those pieces. And those are built in as early as kindergarten, that they're working on these mini research projects together through an online platform. And then it also allows them to get into kind of content creation. I think we've all seen the way of the digital age and where our trajectory is heading for these students. So we want to give them a leg up. And also we really want to get into some just online safety, respectful communication. They are going to be writing emails someday and all those pieces. So we have built all those in to our ELA block this year, which is exciting. We've gone back to a longer kind of ELA block, allowing teachers the flexibility to do the pieces during the ELA block that fits best where they need to go. So we were able to work with teachers. So far, we've had some really great feedback talking to staff. So we're excited to support teachers and see how it supports them and what we can tweak and change and go from there. But that's a little bit about what ELA looks like.
Thank you. And then we'll have questions at the end.
Perfect. Thank you.
The next, I think it's math. The next group that I will, the math specialist. So we have one math specialist who could not make it tonight, Patty Millero. She is at the Grinnell Elementary School. But with me tonight, I have, come on up. I have Amy Landry from East Derry. I have Michelle Sudman from South Range. And I have Jane Fox from Barca. Here, you guys can sit here. I'll get up. And they'll tell you a little bit about math and what we've done. Do you want the middle? Okay, so you got it. Doesn't matter.
You got middle. Hello, I'm Michelle Sunman, and I'm working at South Range this year as the math specialist, and I'm here to talk a little bit about conceptual learning versus procedural fluency. When I'm giving my age away a little bit, but back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, it was all about rote memorization. You got to know this, you got to know that, and yet that's where the talk comes from. Well, I'm not good at math, because not everybody's good at memorizing, not everybody's good at all those things. And so as the math specialist, we want to change that thinking, right? Not only for parents, because parents are probably, well, they're younger than I am now, but we won't go to that. But they're thinking that too. I can't help my child because I'm not good at math, right? And so we want to change all of that to think conceptually. So, and one of those things is that it's not about memorization, it's about thinking through the problem. Last year I was in the 5th grade classroom, and an example would be, we were talking about, how do we subtract numbers, large numbers, and one of the problems went on the board, 4,000 minus 2. And immediately they go to procedure. They stack it, and you gotta regroup all these zero, you know what I mean? And I'm like, whoa, okay, let's take a break. And I was like, the first thing I want you to do when you look at a math problem is to sit and think about it. What do you notice, right? You notice that those numbers are, right? I'm only taking 2 away. So if you can figure out what's 2 less, we don't have to do the algorithm or the, the procedure. We can figure that out. And then when you think about, okay, if I'm going to sit and think about this problem, then I can take that sitting and thinking into something else. I think, we think at this time, kids just want to get it done. They just want to sit in it, and they're like, I don't get it. The first thing is, I don't get it, okay? Let's just sit. Let's sit and think and wonder, and how does this all fit together? How does this pattern help me with this, and how does this pattern help me with that, instead of going right to memorization and just going what I know. And hopefully, the goal is that they will learn to sit in hard things and to notice and to not know that it's just a procedure that, oh my gosh, I do know that and I am good at that. Because every kid is good at math. They just have this thinking that they're not good at memorization or learning particular rules. And so that's what conceptual learning and how we're trying to change that thinking in our elementary schools.
Right. Michelle just said a lot of things that I had in mind too. Jane Fox, Barker Elementary, just started my 22nd year, and I'm also a proud former Derry student myself. So really thrilled to work with this new team and to really be able to focus on and help teachers in the classroom as far as giving them resources, helping them find other ways to teach things. But one of the other goals we had this summer was to incorporate more opportunities for higher level problem solving in real world applications. We live in a world now where, like you said, it's not just rote memorization or memorizing a skill. We want our students, starting in kindergarten, to really develop a deep understanding of mathematics. Because if you think about it, this is usually the subject where in middle school or high school, people start to not like it anymore. And I think that the reason behind that is because they stop understanding it. And if we are there to support teachers and really help students from day one understand what they're doing or even a different perspective of it, then we can really help deepen their overall understanding and hopefully create math learners for life, kids who want to go on and develop a love for the subject. So what we did with that was we looked at different standards and topics, and we really looked at our Envisions program and went through it and picked out what we thought would be the most meaningful lessons, strategies. We're putting in some project-based learning just so each topic itself is we're really looking at each topic deeply, instead of just kind of rushing through things and moving on to the next, because we know that that doesn't work. They need to develop a deep understanding at a young age. So as far as that, we took some topics from Envisions, aligned it, and it's kind of a work in progress. We're finding good research-based activities and incorporating them in. And part of our position this year will be to talk to teachers and get their ideas and just kind of make, fill our math curriculum with deep, rich, meaningful activities. Snuggle.
Yeah, come on in.
Sorry, I got to snuggle in here.
We've gotten close over the summer.
Hi, Amy Landry. I am East Derry, I have to remember this, East Derry Math Specialist. And one of the big things that we did over the summer was the unit sequencing. In years past, you would do a topic of, you would do a chapter on geometry, you would do a chapter on this, you would do a chapter on that. We're trying to get away from that in K-6 because we want there to be in each unit number sense. We want geometry. We want to pull in the application of skills across domains so that they're truly being given opportunity, not necessarily just to learn a skill, but to apply the skill and to achieve mastery of a skill, because they're not doing it in isolation. So that was one of our key focuses this summer. So the teachers were given units for the first trimester, because it is a very big undertaking. And if they look at them, there's very few units that are just one domain.
Naturally, in kindergarten, first grade, you're going to have more units that are one domain because they're just starting out the process. But if you look at third and fourth grade, there are, sometimes there's numbers in algebra, algebraic thinking, reasoning, there's number sense, base 10, there's geometry and data and statistics all in one unit. So it is not just isolation anymore. And that was a big shift. Yes, shift is a good word for it. A big shift for us. And that, yeah, okay. Because you said a lot too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. The next, we have Angela Barber, who is our science specialist. I almost just said math again.
Hello, everybody. I am Angela Barber. I'm the science specialist. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come and talk about science tonight because it is something I'm incredibly passionate about and really excited about the direction that we're going in the district with this. So I appreciate the time to talk. I'll try to do broad strokes because I'm very passionate, so I can get really detailed and I don't want to give you too much information. But to give you some context of the summer work, we, K through 5, have a program that we use called Mystery Science. The teachers really like that program. The students love it. They will often stop me in the hallway and tell me it's their favorite part of the day or in the classroom. It has a lot of hands-on activities, so we really value that program. However, we also have the state standards, the next-gen science standards that we need to make sure that we're addressing. And there's some gaps there. So Mystery Science doesn't necessarily address all of the pieces of the standards. And so what I've been working on is looking for those gaps. So looking really closely at the standards and really closely at Mystery Science and figuring out where we're falling short based on the data from the state testing and based on what I see available in the resources. So then what I do with that information is I create units that are really complete, comprehensive units, K through 5, that give the teachers all of the resources that they need, but also allow them flexibility, because every student, every classroom is different. So what I worked on this summer is K through 1. I did an outline for their first unit. So they're going to each have one very comprehensive full unit, K and 1. That work needs to be continued and will continue over the next few weeks. Second grade has 2 complete units that have Mystery Science as a foundation, but then also have extra lessons and resources to help us make sure that we're meeting the standards. Third grade and fourth grade, last year they had units for the entire year already created from me and in collaboration with the teachers from previous years. And they went through and used those units, and then after every unit, I met with the teachers and got feedback. So on the lesson level, so we went through every single lesson, what worked really well, what didn't work well, collected all of that data, and then over the summer, I worked on editing those units based on the teacher feedback, based on the unit assessments, based on the scores from the state testing, and looking for gaps there. So we've got some really strong units now for their first unit, 3rd and 4th grade. 5th grade, I met with the teachers 5th and 6th and let them collaborate, which was amazing because I was a 6th grade science teacher before this role, and I never really talked to elementary. I never really had that connection with them, so it was amazing to see and have them be able to share where the student's coming from and what kind of information would the 6th grade teachers like them to have. So based off of the meetings that I had with them this summer, we decided as a team that 5th grade was going to have 2 new units to really help address the science skills that were lacking coming up to 6th grade. So over the summer I worked on a new unit for 5th grade, and there's another unit coming as well. And then hopefully I'll be able to work a little bit more on 6th grade this year. But that's it.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Next, we have Joe Crawford, because he did social studies.
All right. Well, it's really not me. I was fortunate to be able to work with a team of teachers last spring and then throughout this summer. It was made up of about 10 staff members from the elementary and middle schools. They were outstanding. I probably should have invited them to come tonight, but maybe they're happy that I did not because it's the first day of school. So thank you guys for coming on the first day of school. But first off, those of you who know me well know that I'm pretty passionate about social studies. That's what I used to teach. It's sort of the forgotten subject of the core subjects. We do not have a state assessment, at least in K to 8 around social studies. Kids do have to take a citizenship assessment, which I know Anthony probably knows all about at high school. So there's pros and cons to not having a state assessment, is that sometimes the subject matter can be really hard to know exactly what we should be prioritizing. But with the restructuring of the schools, this was a great opportunity for us to really look carefully at what's happening in social studies, specifically in grades 5 through 8. So we did a reorganization of the curriculum. The team spent a lot of time on it. And these are, like I said, some classroom teachers who were in the elementary school but obviously had taught social studies. And then we had a number of middle school teachers who had been teaching social studies for many, many years. So they did a great job kind of looking through what should be what should we be focusing on as kids move from elementary school into intermediate school and then into high school. After we kind of got through some of that stuff, we spent a lot of time looking at resources. So a couple of things, maybe you know, we haven't really invested a lot of money in social studies resources over the last 20 to 25 years. Part of that has to do with the state of New Hampshire's curriculum frameworks for social studies are about 20 years old. And so there really hasn't been a renewed sort of focus on those curriculum standards. So what this team did is we actually looked at a lot of different resources. We ended up piloting 2 teacher resources, and then the team unanimously chose one resource and we purchased it. Part of it's an online resource for teachers that collects unit lessons, assessments, maps, all sorts of really great activities for teachers. Couple of things. One, at the intermediate school, we have 29 classroom teachers at West Runningbrook Intermediate School, and 22 of them are social studies teachers. So we recognize, boy, we need to really prioritize and make sure all 22 of these teachers have what they need. So the resource we chose is called TCI. So far, so good. We've done some training. We actually set aside some money so that any of those 22 at the intermediate school and the 8 social studies teachers at the middle school, they all have money set aside to do some training on this resource. Many of them have already done that. Some of them are kind of going to take that on throughout this next month. So that's been pretty positive. In general, I just want to say, you know, the leadership from the teacher group in this area has been really impressive. I think obviously these guys are a great example of teacher leadership in curriculum work. I can't emphasize enough how thoughtful and focused the team was that did this social studies work. We're excited. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail, big broad strokes. We're doing a lot of geography at the intermediate level, so that has been an area that we've identified as been a real area of weakness for students, is understanding their place in the world, understanding how the world comes together. Built into geography, obviously, there is some history, there's some culture, there's actually some economics, and there's some civics that are all built into the 5-6 school. At the middle school, we've this is maybe you know this because of your own experience in high school or middle school. Oftentimes we teach history from the perspective, we teach it chronologically. And if your experience, I don't know how your experience, I'm anxious to find out more about Anthony's experience because I went to Pinkerton. But one of the challenges of teaching chronologically is we often run out of time as we're trying to teach, and we get through about World War II and then we stop teaching history. And that's something that concerns me as somebody who really cares deeply about the world. I think that there are a lot of important issues and ideas connected to modern, both domestic American history and world history. So what we did is we've taken the 7th and 8th grade, and it's really a 2-year American history, although there are some global elements of that curriculum. So we're gonna, what we tried to do in the past was try to do American history, the entire history of the United States in 1 year is what we've been trying to do, which is really, really challenging. It's gonna be challenging to do in 2 years, but got some good positive feedback from the middle school staff. I'm excited to see what they do with it. I should stop talking now, but thank you for giving me a few minutes to talk about social studies.
And next up, we have the wellness coordinator, Mitch Edwards, and he's going to talk a little bit about CARES and the Fly 5 curriculum.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me? My name is Mitch Edwards. Hard to believe this is year 10 as an administrator in this district, and I am really excited to start this school year. I feel like I've landed in a position that fits so well with my wheelhouse around social emotional learning and the things that the other element that we're recognizing across our country that kids really need is to be well and feel mentally, socially, and emotionally well to be able to access their learning. So I'm going to talk to you about the 3 prongs of focus for the summer and the things that I worked with an awesome team of 12 teachers. There were 2 representative teachers from each building to get this work done. So first thing I want to do is recognize that I'm coming to this role wanting to do a small number of things really, really well and with fidelity. This is new, uncharted waters for us, but extremely important areas for us to focus on. As a district, we have ways to respond reactively when a student is in a really, really tough spot mentally. This is more of a proactive approach to help kids learn from the foundation up around what it feels like to establish strong social skills at school so that they feel like they belong, because it is a crucial starting point before we can begin to get to academics. So first I want to talk about the why. We have purchased a social emotional curriculum called Fly 5. So I'll try not to throw tons of acronyms at you, but Fly 5 and CARES, you'll probably hear me say. Fly 5 is the company. CARES is an acronym for the 5 competency components of the curriculum. They are cooperation, assertion, responsibility, empathy, and self-control. The reason we've moved in that direction is we are recognizing, and I don't think anyone in this room could disagree, that students are struggling more than ever before to regulate their emotions at school and develop healthy and productive social skills. And we also see overall wellness for students as more of a prerequisite to achievement, whether we're talking about physical, social, emotional, or academic achievement. So that's where Fly 5 comes in, and the curriculum is research-based. It's an approach that is under the umbrella of responsive classroom. You've probably heard that a lot. Responsive classroom is all about students and well-being at school. So it is a research-based approach to build our teachers' capacity to explicitly teach and assess these non-academic skills. So over the course of the last, well, really since the conversation around the possibility of the job last year, my brain has been spinning, the wheels have been spinning about how to roll this out, and finally got to kind of dive in and spend some time with teachers, full staff of teachers, small groups of teachers over the course of the last couple weeks to actually dig into the curriculum. At one point, delivering 5 pallets of materials across our district and talking to teachers about how excited they are to be able to have the ability to jump into teaching some of these things. When you talk to a teacher about these skills, without exception, they will talk to you about how thankful they are that we now can address these things. For a long time, and even when I was in school, we were kind of sending kids to school with the assumption that they had these skills and that we were equipped to give them the academic skills that they need. That has obviously not necessarily panned out to go exactly the way that we expected. So recognizing the need to fill that gap is what this is all about. As a second part, morning meeting is another responsive classroom approach. And what I did this summer with the help of my CARES team was to develop a consistent morning meeting structure, K to 8,
to ensure that the opening 20 minutes of every student's school day here in Derry gave them an opportunity not only to be in a physical space and stand in a circle shoulder to shoulder with a group of people that they can develop a community with, but to be seen and heard, and not just with eyes and ears, but emotionally as well, to establish belonging for kids at school, to develop strong and healthy relationships, not only with each other, but with the staff members as well, and also to take the ownership of their classroom seriously. It's also not an environment at school anymore where the teacher owns their classroom and the kids are the students. It should be a cohesive environment where kids take ownership of their space. So in that morning meeting structure, I'd love to talk to you guys one-on-one in detail about how that goes. I'd love to run a morning meeting with all of you guys, and you can kind of see how it rolls, because it's pretty structured. It's a lot of fun. But the goal is to have kids feeling like they are recognized each morning. They walk through a structured sequence of activities to make sure that they're seen every day. And if a kid is in a tough spot, it's also a place for us to recognize that and manage it right off the bat and be proactive, whether that be connecting with a counselor to make sure that we don't miss that. It is very easy to miss with the number of kids coming in our building. So the last part of this was to bring it together, was to create an assessment tool. This was super challenging and took the team a long time. When you're assessing non-academic skills, it's not like there are artifacts that are delivered to a teacher that they're then scoring and assessing in the way that you would typically see. So what you'll see is a rubric that is based on a holistic, observation-based approach to give tools to teachers and equip them with the ability to accurately capture a student's ability in these 5 subject areas, and then also to report out in a way not that targets students and talks about where kids are lacking, but instead gives families an idea of the level of support that their student requires to be successful. Realistically, I hope those 3 things come together to develop more resilient kids, so that we are establishing some independent learners as they move on to high school. There's a lot of hard work to do, but I'm really excited to get rolling.
And he did model some morning meetings, and I was at one of them on opening day with the staff members, and it was quite fun. He had a game of rock, paper, scissors, and it was actually, they were having a competition. It was really great to see the morning meeting in action. So as you can see, this curriculum update was long, but we have been doing a lot of things over the summer, the past 2 months. So I will open it up to any questions you may have for our teams, if any.
First, thanks so much for being here on the first day of school. I know you've done a lot of work to get to the first day of school, and then to be here with us is much appreciated. So much to take in. Thank you so much for all the hard work. I have a question about math first. So I love all of this, and I can see how it really fits well into competencies and understanding where students are and where they need to be. How does this fit with Pinkerton? Like, are we working also, do we take our roadshow to them and say, this is where we are with our kids, where do our kids need to be successful here? How does that work?
Yeah, so that was part of the data that I had assessed, looked at, because I meet with Pinkerton every other month, I think it is, and we all meet together, all the sending towns, and we get data from our 9th graders on the math assessment, and I will look at that data, and I started to recognize last year in some of that data some of the gaps that I was seeing across, and then I started to dig a little deeper into our SAS and our NEWA, and so yes, it does align. We also aligned everything to achieve the core, which we had done that in the past. It's just that we've made clusters. I've had to kind of align so that it was vertical alignment a little bit, and so that they're not doing the same thing over like every single grade level. So that will align, and the progression will go up to ninth and 10th grade, or high school. But
Awesome. I have one more question. Is that
yeah.
okay? The other piece is the gaps, the gaps that now you can see, which is great.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of something that people can understand with, when they look at standardized test scores as the only thing to look at our students with, right? Which that's not how I feel, but that's what people do, right? So there's that one number, and it looks like should be better. But there are also gaps to student learning, whether it's with our curriculum or what they're able to learn developmentally at a certain point. And so listening and hearing what you're saying about gaps and how you're applying it to the new curriculum and the new way of student learning should be beneficial for the community to understand why things happen the way they are. I will just I'm going to use Pinkerton as an example, because at one point, they did not teach a certain social studies standard until a certain grade. And it didn't look good on standardized tests, but they also knew that it wasn't the best standard or the best process for students to learn at that point. And they didn't really want to change what they were doing. Not that they didn't want students to learn, not that they didn't want their scores to look great, but they also looked at what students' ability was. And, I thought that was great that they did that and worked with the state and whoever magical people. But this really gives me a lot of hope, and I really do appreciate all that work and understand all of those pieces that go together. So, and hopefully it also helps people understand competencies, because I think all of this falls into place really nicely. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do. So it sounds like there's a big focus for K through 6.
Yes.
So 7th and 8th didn't change?
No, thank you for bringing that up. I meant to say that. So K through 6, it was the bigger focus right now, because we had the alignment for the 5th grade went to the 5-6 school. We had to align the 5-6. 7 and 8 last year, math. Literacy met with Dr. Taylor, who used to be here for, she was our director of literacy. They had just met and realigned some of their curriculum that aligns pretty well to what we just did, but we will continue to align that as well, but it wasn't as a priority right now. And then for math, they met with all of the math teachers at Hood, 7th and 8th, met with Principal Lisa Long, who used to be the director of mathematics, and they went through the data and they looked at their curriculum. And so that would be, they worked on 7, 8. So they did have feedback. It just wasn't as an overhaul as K to 6. But next year, that will be my next focus. But K to 6 was our primary focus for this year.
Okay. And do we have a full year? It sounded like there was a lot of, we've gotten it through the first few weeks. Like, how are we looking for our full year?
So we what Amy meant. So we do have a full year. We have the year at a glance for both ELA and for math, but we only wanted to give them one trimester at a time, because we wanted to see how it would roll out and get some feedback from the teachers as they do it. And so then we'll give them the second trimester with those resources.
Okay. And then, so we're still doing PACE reading and PACE math, correct?
Yes.
But we've gotten away from the enhanced math for younger students?
Right. So it's a PACE 4th grade class for math. And then we are now doing a focus block. And so focus block is our intervention block, and that is across K to 8. And the focus block has a different focus every single day, and it is a grade level will be now split up. So we will look at the data from our math screeners that we will be doing, and also our NEWA data for a reading, and we will split the grade up according to their needs and across the grade level. So classroom teachers, math specialists, or reading specialists, whichever one, Title I if they're in that building, assistants, they will be all on board, and we will split the kids up according to need, and they will have differentiated instruction during that time.
And so, I'm sorry, how long will it take to develop that?
It's right away. Our math. So as soon as we do the screener, today, Amy came up with this, and they came up with this great spreadsheet. And so we will put the data right in. It will come up with groupings for us. Reading fluency test is our new reading fluency test. It's a 20-minute test that it was in place of Dibbles, which is our dyslexic screener, and it's automatic right then and there. And the program comes up with all of their data and puts them into groupings, and our reading specialists and our math specialists will look at that data and then give that to classroom teachers, and then we can start that process.
Okay, I did hear someone say we're looking for more opportunities for high-level learning starting in kindergarten.
Yes.
But if we're taking away that enhanced math at a younger age, I'm not sure how we're...
So it's because we're going to be differentiating more in the focus block so that we can have those students above. So it's not just a class, but we'll have those opportunities into the curriculum for a real world application.
Okay. How are we educating our families on these changes to curriculum?
So tonight is one of them for the updates, and then Joe and myself are working on our grading, and that will come out, and we're going to hold parent nights as well. So that will be out schedule.
Okay. And I know you said you are going to be checking in with teachers, but
yes.
I think it is important for us and the community to know how we are measuring success for our new curriculum and our new structure. I don't know if that's already been figured out, shared.
So we will look at that. We look at groups every 6 weeks in the classrooms, and we have the screeners that is an added measure this year to look at that. And we also, the alignment of the curriculum, we aligned it better to match our assessments of NEWA and a SAS assessment so that we can measure it easily across all domains from the classroom to the assessments.
Okay. And is there an easy way for families to kind of get a full picture of what's changed as far as what programs we've lost, what we've added, what's being offered?
So we didn't lose any programs, but what we did was we are realigned. So we are using Envision's math program still, but what we did, the math team looked at all the ICANN statements that we'll be teaching as our learning targets, and they matched the lessons with those targets. So nothing really went out. It's just that we realigned everything so that it all was more cohesive.
Okay. And this probably isn't necessarily a question for you, but just in general, I'm curious how we can find out all the changes that we needed to make to our buildings so that we could accommodate our new plan, the new structure. Being in South Range the other day, I could see that, okay, we've got our PACE room, we've got 12 desks in this tiny little space, but it looks like things were done to make that space happen, along with the speech room. I know that we've dividing classrooms over at Hood. So I would love to get a list of what are all the changes that we needed to make to our buildings, and what was the cost of those? So again, I realize that you're probably not going to have that information right now, but that is information that I would like to know.
Got a comment, one question, if I may. First of all, thank you to everybody. You guys, the teams, the teachers, building administrators, everybody. I'll echo what Brenda said. A lot of work went into it. This update was outstanding. So super appreciated, and we can't thank you enough for the work that everybody's done that's gone into this. So I'm excited to kind of see how the year goes.
I am too.
That leads into my question. What's the interval that the teams are kind of meeting? I'm assuming feedback, the loop is pretty open. It happens all the time. But is there a structure to kind of circling back and having meetings, assessing, level setting, maybe making some adjustments, tweaks? How often is that going to happen? Obviously, this is super fluid, right? Big changes. Kids come in, it's dynamic, there's a lot of things happening. So I'm assuming, right, we're going to make some adjustments as needed. How often will the teams meet to kind of assess and then reevaluate?
So they have team planning every single week as a team. And so the math specialist and the reading specialist will be a part of those teams. And so every other week, math will go on or reading will go on. Also, to align our district, K to 4, Erin Trenard, she will be all first grade, for example, have planning at the same exact time on the same day. So they will jump onto a Google Meet, and so that we can meet all first grade teachers in the district. We'll meet with Erin to sort of go over curriculum, to align things, to get feedback. That is really open-ended. And Dennis Mayo, when he returns, he will also be doing the same thing for 5 through 8. He'll be meeting with the grade level teams and to get that feedback and to look at the data. So we're excited that they're a part of the team, the teachers. And so we really gave them the what they have to teach. And so now as a team meeting, they look at how they're going to teach it. And then Mitch will be in buildings. He's going to, his role, I mean, you could discuss your role. Sure.
So I got to start my day every day for the last 9 years at West in a morning meeting, and now I just kind of I get to expand on that. So my goal is to be in every single classroom across the district at least once for a morning meeting. So I'll catch an early one at either the middle school or the intermediate school, and then I'll shoot over to an elementary school. But not just to be there, but also to provide feedback to each one of those. I mean, if I want the structure to be consistent and we want kids to get out of it what we know research shows that is helping kids be more engaged and more well at school, I want to be able to be a feedback point for those teachers, and then also to get into classrooms and actually co-teach or be with teachers when they're teaching CARES lessons. This is a whole new venture. Teachers are very excited, but also this is new, and there's some anxiety and stress out there. So I want to calm that and have people get excited, as excited as I am. I want people to realize the importance, and I'm excited to be in the schools because I need to be around kids and teachers to be satisfied with my work.
And also his CARES team, he'll meet with the CARES team periodically, and so they'll give him feedback as well, so that we'll get that constant feedback. And I'm in schools, and teachers will just come up to me and give me feedback, so it's great.
I just wanted to say, I mean, I really appreciate how in-depth this update was, and everything you hit on. It really shows how much work that you guys are always doing. And, I mean, both Jason and I, when we started doing this, we didn't think that you guys were talking about curriculum enough. I know that you guys are out doing it, but I don't think that there is an understanding in the community, amongst families and other people of, how much work goes into it, how data-driven it is, how collaborative the processes are, how you're constantly, looking at things, that we can do better. I know that, social emotional learning has been, a hot topic, and I mean, it's great that we have Mitch in this position now, to focus on that. It's always been there, but this position I think is really going to drive home that importance. But yeah, I mean, this is really great stuff, and I mean, I'm hoping that we can get regular updates like this. Maybe not as long.
Not as long. I promise, not as long. They'll be
just to
updated.
just to see how all of these things are are progressing on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'd echo a lot of the other sentiments. Just some words that I wrote down, just consistency, standards, assessments, just these are things that I think are really beneficial because, in order for us to be successful, I think those are important standards to be following. Consistency, being able to assess and look back so we can, if we bring you guys back here next year, hopefully not on the first day, but we'll be able we'll be able to see the fruits of the labor that's been put in, and that's what I'm excited about, is just being able to us streamlining some of these things gives us the ability to have again, math specialists that is another support both for teachers as well as students, and then again, we're gonna again see that whole student continue to progress and develop, and be ready for Pinkerton.
I just say too, one thing that really hit home was Joe's comment that we never make it past World War II in American history. Just thinking back to myself being in school 25 years ago, you'd make it to World War II and you'd run out of time. Yeah. Interesting to hear that it's still like that.
So I'll say this is an amazing update since the last time we spoke. Very comprehensive. It sounds awesome. It sounds like it's gonna be a great addition, and as we move forward, I just want to say, Mitch, that your update was great. I'm looking forward to everything that you talked about and hearing how things go. It sounds really, really good. And Joe, I'd say as a history buff myself, I'm glad to hear that we're getting through to current day history in the 2-year program. It's great. But guys, thank you for all the work you put in. This was very comprehensive and really looking forward to seeing the fruits of your labor and everyone that was involved. So thank you again and look forward to next time.
Thanks.
And I just want to say thank you to our administrators and our teachers for coming out tonight, giving up your time. We appreciate that so much. The expertise that we have with our professionals in this school district is outstanding. And as you can see from this type of a I've got goosebumps on my goosebumps because the passion that you guys show comes out. And we understand how much you love what you're doing. And not only giving back to the learning of our students, but also the learning of our staff members and your colleagues and so forth. And the other thing that I have to emphasize is this is a perfect example of our administrators work extremely well with our teachers, and our teachers work extremely well with our administrators. It is collaboration. It is a team. This is not a us against them by any means. This is together, and together we are moving forward, and I couldn't be so much more excited for this district and where I see it going in the years to come. So thank you all for what you do. And Joe assists me with everything with the SAU leadership team. But that team, we have our specialists, and Kim Conant leading the way with curriculum, and Mitch and Erin. And then, Patty's not here, but Amy and Michelle and Jane, thank you so much. Angela, you've been doing this. Is this 3rd year now? Yeah. And it is having a very positive impact, and I couldn't be more excited, and I can't thank you all enough.
Thank you.
Well, so I think I have to say something too, right? So by listening to you guys, I feel like this is gonna be a good school board here. So because tonight is very nice, and I learned a lot, especially from your part. So the morning meeting, I think that will reveal the leadership from the kids, because being there in the morning, that will help them to establish a better relationship in greeting to each other, and that will help the teacher to know them too. So I think that is a good leadership aspect from that program, and I really like it. And I like the way you guys talk, the way you talk about it, because you show the ownership. You say the kids gonna develop the ownership of this space. So I really like that. So thank you guys. I think you guys are very nice, and you're doing a great job. So bring that program to Haiti. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have our strategic plan update. I guess, Joe, you're giving that update?
Just changing seats. So we put the community engagement report in the packet again tonight because we wanted to ensure that everybody had a chance. It's a pretty dense report. There's a lot in there. And that was And that's the synthesized report that we asked G&D to put together for us when they came in the spring and did focus groups, surveys, one-on-one conversations with some people. We had we had 2 days of strategic planning that happened this August, where we brought the most of the team back, the team that had worked on the visioning in May. And we brought most of that team back, and G&D came out, and we took a look at our draft vision statements. We gave some feedback on that, and then we started really trying to operationalize that vision by identifying some priorities, some deliverables, some things that we want to accomplish over the next 12 months. And at the end of those 2 days, the team had identified a number of deliverables, and now they are kind of out with some of our administrative team to begin building like project plans. So I think we set a target of 1 month from our last meeting. I think it was a couple weeks ago. So I know Cliff's got some projects, Kim's got some projects, I have some projects, and others as well. So we'll be bringing that forward both to the team and then obviously to the full board. The vision, the public vision statements are almost ready. I think there's some final touches that G&D Scott wants to put on them based on feedback from the team, and then those are going to be public-facing documents. So G&D is going to help us with our communication plan for how do we get the word out to the community that here's what we heard, here's our plan for the future, this is our vision for what we believe the Derry Cooperative School District should look like. So G&D has done this with many other organizations, schools around the country, so they're going to help us with some of that communication. It's not quite ready to go yet, but it will be very soon. Do you have questions about strategic planning, things you want to know more about?
What was the thought of the amount of participants in the study? What was G&D's thoughts on that? Were they expected, or what was their thoughts on that?
So Scott had shared that he thought we had very good participation from community members, from parents, from people who had no children in the schools who wanted to come out in rainstorms or all sorts of challenges. We had a little bit lower participation among staff members between the survey and the focus groups. But because we had both surveys and focus groups, we didn't have a ton of attendance in the focus groups. We also did some student, it's a little bit more challenging in a K-8 district where, to do student focus groups. So we did do 2 student focus groups at the middle schools. So overall, I think Scott was very impressed. He thought that it went really well. Some of the things that came out of those discussions, he said, are kind of common trends throughout the nation, and then some are more specific to what we're dealing with here in Derry. So I thought it was great to have an outside person looking at that information to give us perspective.
So couple, I guess, questions, or just not even questions, but I thought a couple things that stood out to me. We look here at 88% of all community members believe that developing life skills is more important than memorization. I think what we heard tonight is a great response, or a tangent, or I don't know, a supplement to that, or a complement to that. So I think I think we're moving in the right direction there. I think we talk about this a lot, is communication that needs to continue to be improved. I think that was clear here from the results, looking at just sharing the impact of initiatives and the return on investment. And then another piece that played out here that I think was 70-ish% that we as a district should be playing a role in addressing social and economic challenges within the community. So it's I think we had put forward I'm trying to think of the word, I can't remember, not an amendment, but we had brought to the New Hampshire School Board Association, resolution, that is the word I was looking for, resolution for, access to meals for breakfast and lunch for all students. I think that is a huge piece that would continue to assist in that. I think this is a lot of great information. I would be very interested, and I'm excited to see what comes out of these deliverables for the project plans, and what the next steps that are coming out of here. So this is all really good information. I think it's important to have this information. I think some of these things we knew, some of these things we didn't know, and some of these things are like, hey, this is, that's a reminder to get back to, maybe some of the basics as well. So, I think, I'm excited about this. I think a lot of people in the community are interested in this. There is obviously, I think, some skepticism in there. And so, I would hope that people listen to what we were presented to tonight, can see that, we are serious about making the necessary changes that we need to make, and that we are focusing on, again, a grand strategic plan that allows us to be consistent, allows us to create standards across a district, allows us to streamline a lot of inefficiencies that, will enable us to be a better district, not just may not be immediate this year. I think some of these things they talked about tonight are definitely going to be immediate, but, again, long-term thinking, 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And so it is going to certainly take some time. As the saying goes, it takes a village. So we are going to need the support of all the parents of your students, of all the teachers that as well. So, and then as well as all the community members. So it's great to hear the responses from the community members as well. So, again, all things being said, pretty great news, pretty great things to be excited about. And, I'm looking forward to this.
All right, thanks, Joe. So moving on, I guess it's me. So we'll talk about the superintendent search here. So Kathy Kennedy, about shortly after our last meeting, we submitted an RFP. We targeted some specific companies, but also put it out there to the larger audience. So we did get five candidates submit RFPs for the search. And then, companies, 5 companies, yeah, good point. No candidates yet. 5 companies, so just to give you a kind of sense, G&D was one of them. That's the company's doing our strategic plan, so that's some symmetry there. We have a company called NASDAQ. They actually just did the search for Rochester. They had a lot of great, it looks like they had a lot of great diverse candidates from outside of just New Hampshire, so it's always a plus. The other 3 I'm not as familiar with, so Michael and I will do some preliminary calls and get some feedback and thoughts on them. We'll present that to the board for our next meeting, and then the board can decide what direction we want to go in. You got all the hard facts here. Michael and I will get you the questions that we asked them and give you guys kind of some deeper dive information for you guys to kind of hear before our next meeting. We were going to try to do it for this meeting, but with 5 candidates, it just wasn't going to line up for us. So we'll do that, and we'll get that information out to you in advance of our next meeting. And we'll go from there. Any questions?
Something that I'd be interested in knowing as you're talking to these companies is just a little bit more information about, with their placement rate, what their follow-up is, how long after they're placing these superintendents are they staying in their roles, what that relationship is looking like, and how they're following up with districts after. Thank you.
That's a good point. So if you have any questions, please email Michael and myself in the next next week. Probably by the end of this week, if you could do that. I assume early next week we'll start the process after the holiday, and get that going.
Just a request, if can you let us know when, just kind of logistics of when you guys are interviewing or calling these, just because I know I've worked through 2 of them, but I haven't worked through all of them. So if one comes sooner than other, then I'll definitely prioritize over the other 3 that I have to do. But Yeah, that's it.
Oh, definitely can do that. All right, and then, I know some good reading here, so obviously we got people, we got 4 companies in the general price range, and we got one that's way out there. I guess that's typical in any RFP, I guess, when you got several bids, but if you have any specific questions as you go through them, obviously send those along as well, and we can get those answered for you. Actually, we probably should start at the end of this week, maybe. I don't know, we'll talk, because, yeah, it'll be tough after the holiday, so we actually might try to get started this week. All right. All right. Facilities, you want to tackle this, Michael, from last week? And when we get Jane's input, just from our meeting?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a ton to talk about. I mean, I know that, you've gone to Job and Associates, and they're going to do, update their he'll update his estimates at no charge. So I don't know when we're expecting to get that back.
I'm not sure. I didn't have him start it because I think the request of the board was to bring it here for the board to agree that we would have him do that. I also spoke to Jay from La Valley, and his estimates are always based on magnitude of order, and he said that he would work with Mark Jobin on that, and that's really no cost, but if it was going to be a more deep dive of, they would have to come up with plans, and of course there would be a cost to that. And I also spoke with Alan from Gale, and if they were to come out and do a reassessment of South Range and West Runningbrook, again, that there is a charge from Gale to give updated numbers, but Jobin was no cost.
I think if possible, as long as the board is amenable to go in that route, I think we discussed it before, I'd love to have these numbers for our second meeting in September, that Thursday before or whatever the date is. That would be the ultimate, if we can. If not, I mean, I get it. I think we should try to shoot for that if we're all amenable. I mean, it's nice that they're going to do it at no cost. I'm sure it's just really just a factor of escalating up and giving us updated numbers, which is fine, I think, for what we need it for at that point. At this point, is the board okay with that direction?
I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jane, can we have, is there going to be a charge from Gale if they just, like David said, escalate their previous estimates versus coming out, reassessing, and putting together a whole new report? I think for the purpose of us kind of trying to build out a project plan or looking for a number, any of the projects, as we've discussed numerous times, I mean, once you start digging into things do pop up. So I think maybe for Gail to just kind of give us an updated estimate based on the assessment and the report that they've already done would be helpful. I don't necessarily think he needs to come back out, or they need to come back out and perform a bunch of additional testing.
Especially when you consider, I mean, at this point, by the, as there probably, could there have been additional deterioration since they did their first study? Sure, but by the time, if we do another study now, what's the point? By the time we are actually doing the work, it's going to be another, year plus. And,
right.
So, why would we pay for that assessment?
So I did have a conversation with him last week, and I just want to get an accurate number, because he did do an estimate. You just give me 1 minute, I just have to find it.
I think the comment that was made earlier, I agree with, in the sense that we've had assessments, we've had evaluations, we've had tests, we've had all this stuff. We need to have some sort of ballpark figure. Facilities needs to kind of evaluate, determine what they believe to be the best path forward with the administration, bring it to the board. We have input, and let's move forward again as a board, as a unified front on getting some of these projects done, whatever that looks like, versus continuing to evaluate, assess, and we can dance around and continue to pay out to have these things done. But we know what these big rocks are, so it's time to kind of have them give us a ballpark, understand the rocks we want to move, and get back to work on it.
So he had replied after I had a conversation with him. Actually, Austin and I were both on a a call with Alan. And originally, he provided an estimate, if we're referring to West Running Brook. Originally, it was 2.9, some change. And typically, in their experience, they carry a 9% escalation factor for each year that construction is deferred. So we will, add that on for estimates. He said, he mentions if Derry would like to be conservative with their estimate, and assuming a June 2025 construction, and that again is for the banding around West Running Brook, a 13.5% escalation factor could be applied to the previous estimate of the 2.9, and that would make the project estimate at $3,333,300. And again, this doesn't take, this is just an estimate, and because Austin and I were talking after the last meeting, and so we called Alan and talked about, for that project, if we did fencing instead of netting, would we be able to get that project done if a warrant article passed? And so we asked him about what the cost to do that would be and what the escalation was. And again, we would go back through our report to see, I think we talked to last meeting about, we obviously don't want to double dip on contingencies, and he does have contingency built in, so we don't want to add contingency on top of that. But so I think that he actually sent another email. He only was going to have a cost, particularly with South Range, because they already did a site survey again at West Running Brook. They know where the areas have shifted due to water, they believe. They have not done one at South Range. So if he were to do a South Range, if they were to do a scope of service, we had two options. One would be a consulting service for evaluation, provide a report and preliminary cost estimate, updating their findings from our previous report, which we did pay them to do that for West Running Brook. So we had not done that for South Range. Number two, evaluation, design, and bid phase services, similar to what they did for West Running Brook, for the remedial repairs at South Range. This would include follow-up evaluation and 35% submission with an updated estimate, design development submissions, final bid documents, and bid phase services. So if you were going to do that so that we could go out to bid, if that was something that we put on the warrant article for both South Range and West Running Brook, we would, hope to have at least one or both schools start in June of 2025, or July 1 of 2025. So we'd be starting those plans, putting those plans out to bid in the winter, having an RFP go out, and then being prepared to go with a contract after the after the public vote in March. So for preliminary, we can just add an escalation to South Range. You see where we're going with that one, right? Okay. So that's what I have as far as being able to have estimated cost for the original facilities plan that we had going.
Yeah, that makes sense, Jane. And I think with that being done, I can't imagine it's a heavy lift for those guys if they're doing it that way. I guess the question is the board comfortable moving forward in that direction? I know we talked about it. This kind of crystallizes if there's a cost to us, but if there's no objections, we can have Jane move forward in getting this information from Jobin and Gale and LaValle, and then try to proceed as we discuss the facilities for the second meeting in September with the facilities committee recommendation, bring into the board to discuss and finalize to send to a warrant article in whatever dollar amount deemed appropriate by the board at that time. So the other thing we talked about is really the crux, I shouldn't say crux, it was the starting point of the meeting.
David, can I just circle back on one thing? Just with regards to when the information comes out, I think we don't want to rush that one. So if the board could have the information, obviously, as soon as possible, I know it would at least be in the packet, but any sooner that it could be had, but prior to. That way we have time to sort of dive deep, review against the old documents, all of our notes, kind of go through everything, and then come on that meeting. Everybody's armed with the knowledge and the information they need to
Okay.
to make a decision and to
Yeah.
input, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So Jane, once you do have the commitments and the information, let's set a facility committee meeting as soon as you can, I guess. And then from that meeting, we will put together a package for the board, prior to that, as soon as we can after that facilities meeting. It doesn't matter the date, I guess, as long as it's prior to our usual scheduled packet of a Thursday. So tell you what, why don't you figure out what they got, and then you can just give us some dates on a facility meeting when they think they'll be ready, and we'll go from there. So the other piece of the meeting, we had Dave Karen and Bev Dunham come to our facilities meeting to discuss. Actually, it's more of a due diligence of what to do with Derry Village and kind of collaborate with the town to discuss that. In discussions, Dave kind of led it off, and really, there's not a lot of need. Well, there's a need for the town, they just can't afford it, so that's kind of off the table. But one of the things we talked with Bev about a year ago, Jonathan and I talked with Bev, is possible rentals that don't involve renovation of the buildings, whether it's if we have a lot of contractors coming in for the West Rhinebrook district, do they need a staging area? Do they need a storage place for their materials while they're doing their work? We asked Bev to keep an eye out for that. There's no need at this current time. So, and quite frankly, when the discussion ended with the town, their recommendation was to leave it as is right now. That's from their perspective. And I think the consensus of the committee was to agree with that for a couple different reasons, I think. The main one being, right now we have a pressing priority to pass a bond to get repairs done at all our schools. And I think that should be, well, not me, I think the thought process at the committee was to make sure that we're focusing on that priority and making sure that we do the best we can to get that passed. And, we can follow up on Derry Village at another time. Katie, Michael, that's pretty much kind of how it went, I think. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty much the discussion. I mean, we also talked about, how much of that property there is dedicated to the town's baseball fields. And, it would make it very difficult for the town's baseball programs to no longer have that land. They'd have to find land somewhere else. It would probably cost them a lot more to have to procure new land and build new baseball fields than to have what's there now. So, I think we had talked about, if you were going to sell the property, that you'd subdivide it even further and retain the baseball fields. So, I mean, that was part of the discussion with the town.
Yeah, definitely. And at this point in time, from a timing perspective, we just don't have the time to really dig in right now with all the other pressing priorities that we have. And just to, keep in back of everyone's mind, especially some of the newer people in the room, just to give you a kind of a sense, it's about a $60,000 carrying cost per year for the property, just to kind of keep that in the back of your mind. If you were to tear down the building, it's $1 million. So those discussions, we talked about that as well, just leaving, but I think at this point, that was the recommendation of the committee. And along with that recommendation, I would take it a step further. And Jane, I wouldn't even bother trying to get a appraisal at this point in time, because I think any appraisal you do today is worthless 6 months from now, unless the board disagrees with that assessment from the committee. Or would I just ask Jane now? Speak now or forever hold your peace with regards to that.
Doesn't make sense to pay for an appraisal or an assessment if we're going to hold the property.
Agreed.
Question about the $60,000 carrying cost. So that includes keeping it heated so that we don't have to worry about winterizing or anything. And how often are we going to be going in and checking in on that building now that people aren't going to be walking that all the time?
Well, currently they're in there every day, still checking on the building. And somebody will be there, somebody will check in on that building at least once a day. And we also still have the security system over there, so we also check on the building in that way as well.
With Derry Diamond still using the baseball fields, is Derry Rec also planning on using the basketball courts for rec basketball in the winter?
I haven't talked to them about that. I wasn't sure what the board wanted to do on whether we're going to occupy that building during the winter. But there will be, I mean, there will be additional costs because we'll have to plow it, staff it. During the week, typically, our buildings are staffed, so we don't charge Derry Rec to be in there, but I would have to have a custodian. That would be a cost.
Yeah, I think the big thing, you just kind of hit the nail too, like plowing. Let's make sure, you know, obviously you guys are cutting the grass, and I'm sure all that happens and all that. We don't want it to go to look unruly. There was one other thing I forget.
And there's also, I mean, we talked about the concern of the building is that if we're going to sit on it for any length of time, it needs a new roof, it needs a this and a that. So, you know, if we are going to continue to sit on the building, you're going to have to put money into it to keep it in any sort of usable condition.
Yeah, I think one of the other things, I just remembered, one of the other things we talked about too was, I think we mentioned to Austin and Jane was, or everyone in the room, not just those guys, is that, you know, is there a long-term solution from the SAU from that perspective at that building? We don't know the answer. It's just kind of throwing ideas out, something to think about. But at the same time, I think one of us made it clear that we can't sit on it and forget about it. We have to have it constantly in our mind. Maybe not today.
Plan.
Yeah, we need to figure out what the long-term plan is, because before you know it, it'll be 3 years, and I don't want to be at ground zero. Whoever's on the board in 3 years want to be at ground zero trying to figure out what to do. Let's always keep in the back of our minds and think about how do we move forward. No plan is off limits. We can do it in facilities or next year's facilities, whatever the case may be. We just got to really keep it in the back of our minds on moving forward, because it's easy to set it and forget it kind of thing. You know what I mean? We don't want to do that. I think that was one of the bigger takeaways as well, because there is a cost to that, obviously.
That's not necessarily from our facilities. I think that sharing all the pictures of our ongoing projects over the summer was great. I think that it was very well received from the public. I got personally a lot of great feedback and conversations about that. Do we have any projects that aren't complete that were started over the summer for, you know, transitioning to the new plan? Still needs to be done.
There are a couple projects that just have some final touch-ups. Honeywell, there is a delay for the Honeywell project. They are having equipment delays from Train, so we're not expecting the final equipment for 2 projects. I think it was Grinnell and Hood, some HVAC equipment that still needs to come in. They're expecting it at the end of September, so the install for those won't be until sometime October, November. But otherwise, the majority of the projects, teachers are in their classrooms, like the science rooms over at Hood, the renovations over at West Running Brook. I believe that they are completed. Maybe putting up whiteboards or things like that to finish off the rooms. The playground is not completed yet, but they're working on that. If anybody's driven by, you'll see there's been huge progress made. It looks amazing. But those are the projects that pretty much are still ongoing.
Do you have an update on the playground? I mean, I think that the real thing that you're waiting for there is the pour-in-place rubber, right? There's a certain time when they need to come and do that.
Right. They had a minor issue. One of the pieces of equipment that didn't have the appropriate number of holes. So they've worked that out, and so the whole project should be completed in the next, I would think, 2 weeks. And then you can see that the pavement was poured, but it takes 20 days before you can actually paint on the basketball court and the 4 square. So people aren't going to see that right away, but you will see the poured rubberized material. And the playground is separated, so one side of it is the actual play equipment, and the other side is basketball and foursquare. So it's a really nice design that was put together by the engineers, and I think it's going to look amazing. The fencing is pretty much all done. I know that they were working on the landscaping portion of the area, so it's looking really, really nice.
I will say, the blueprints didn't do it justice.
No.
Now that it's, almost near completion, it really does look great.
Yeah, Activitas is the engineering firm that did it, and they specialize in playgrounds and outdoor areas. So it was a lot of work with a lot of different people, more in contracting, the playground company, Activitas, the maintenance department. They really all had to coordinate. It's unfortunately some of our other playgrounds that are on flat property were a much easier design. This was a lot more work. They hit ledge, they had to do construction. So, but I think it fits. I think when it's done, you're going to think that playground was there forever and it was meant to be. Just the layout of how they designed it is really nicely put on that piece of property. So we're very pleased with how it's coming out. And hopefully the kids are excited after they were there today.
So, back to the bad news. So as the roof was being done at West Running Brook, the contractor thought they had broken a drain on the roof, so they fixed it and everything was fine until I think ARM started inspecting all 50 whatever drains on the roof, 52, and realized that 60% of them are not functioning properly or were installed improperly back when the building was constructed. So so that's about, 30 to 35, I think the final number was, since last week anyways. So with that being said, obviously ARM is going to do more and there's an actual contractor that specializes in this that is going to take a look at it. So we don't have any hard numbers right now. We're just kind of updating you on the situation. And, unfortunately, this is going to happen across the board when we start doing these projects at all our schools. You're going to find stuff that you just can't see. It's behind a wall. It's whatever. It's this. So I guess at this point, it's the frustration level. It can't be there. You just got to kind of expect it and move and do the best you can to remedy it in the least cost-effective way and move on. But I guess that's, I think, the last update we have from the facilities meeting that I can recall.
But yeah, the issue with the drains is just another one of those things where you don't even know it's an issue until you start fixing something else, and then you realize you have a problem you didn't even know you had.
And I think it's important to emphasize, and this was emphasized at the facilities, but we want to get it on record here. You mentioned that's a roofing consultant that the school board hired. And one of the things that we've heard from the community and we've listened to is how, they're seeing that they're hearing about these things and some things weren't constructed as well. Well, in the past, we didn't spend the money to hire somebody that works for us just to make sure things are done correctly. And that's one of the pieces that has already saved us on these drains because the roofing company covered the cost of fixing because it caused leaks and so forth down in West Running Brook, and they fixed that at no cost to the district. And there was another section of roofing, I don't know if it was, I can't remember if it was at Barker. Was it at Barker? And it was laid out incorrectly, and ARM had that roofing company redo it at their cost, tear it all up, and do it correctly. So that is why we are going to make sure that things are done correctly. Even with what Jane said about one of the pipes, they could have drilled different holes in it. We said no. We'd rather wait 2 weeks now for a playground that's going to be around for 50 years and do it correctly. So the emphasis is on doing it right, and the emphasis is on companies like ARM who work for us they're not doing any of the construction. They're just making sure that the subcontractors are doing it correctly, and that will pay dividends. And I want to, you mentioned about the contractor. We found out there is a contractor that his job, his expertise, what he does is roof drains. That's it. So when we talk about experts, I think that's probably an expert. His entire job and how he makes his money is roof drains. So you can assume that this gentleman knows about everything you would want to know, and probably a lot more than you'd ever want to know about roof drains. But it's going to be done right moving forward. So hopefully that will help to ease the community's mind about where things are going from here on out.
Yeah, Austin, I agree 100%. And that's kind of, you know, we hear a lot about doing projects incrementally, making sure we're taking our time, do it right. And those are the kind of examples that we see that will hopefully help us out when it comes time for people to trust that we're doing the right things when we need to do them. I think that's it for facilities, unless anybody else has any questions. I think that's pretty much everything we talked about that day.
David, one thing to think about it, you had mentioned SAU and Michael had mentioned that work's gonna need to be done at some point to Derry Village, depending upon how long we retain the property and keep the building up. I think we need to explore a little bit further about the possibility of moving the SAU to the Derry Village property, in the sense that, from what Michael just said, if we're gonna have to put a roof at some point, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you might as well occupy it. The SAU property probably has the best value in terms of what we could get back. On top of all of these discussions this year haven't included any of the work that needs to be done at the SAU, right? So I know we've really been focused on the schools and the buildings. That building needs a pretty significant amount of work in and of itself. So it might be time, if we're gonna divest, it might be time to divest the SAU and invest what we need to invest into Derry Village to at least get the roof squared away, move the SAU. I mean, I don't want to speak out of turn and say it's a fairly easy move, but you guys just moved a bunch of buildings. I think moving, you know, a handful of offices over is not nearly as difficult as moving a bunch of buildings around. So when you talk about keeping the plan kind of in play, this is something that we really need to explore, even from a high level, as to what the cost might be, against what the needed repairs for the SAU are, against what is going to need to be put into Derry Village. So just food for thought as we kind of work through the process. I know we'll get wrapped up in some other things, but we really need to explore that option and divest something if it's possible. Cut something off of the books that we don't have to make that significant investment into.
Yeah. I mean, the original building at Derry Village, and especially the 1970s edition, are in extremely poor condition. They are in,
Some of it can come down, though, right?
Yeah,
So
but
if we move the SAU, we can
the
keep
2000 edition, the section in the rear and then the gymnasium half of the gym cafeteria are in pretty good condition, So you could use that section of the building as the SAU. I would think that that's probably more space than you've got now at the at the old Derry Village. And I mean, in that building, that building too the SAU building is probably the worst building that we have. It's the original Derry Village from, I don't know if it's 1901. And then the other half of the building is portables, from when we used to have portables. And they are essentially sinking into the earth. So, at some point, we're going to have to do something about that building.
So I totally agree with the SAU. Been talking about it for a long time. But if we're going to do that, I think it has some merit to look at moving deep also to Derry Village, where there are not lots of stairs for children to have to climb up and down to go to recess or go to their playground. There's also a playground there, and more space to put a preschool playground rather than trying to fit it into Hood. Just a suggestion.
Good point.
I mean, that's what Salem did with the school that they closed. It's now the Salem preschool.
Yes, it is.
All right. So all good ideas, and I think all something that we should explore. And I think, kind of gave Austin that charge on top of your 12 other things, or if not more, that you got to look at. But it's good to have a high level look at this because, before you know it, it'll be the bond time. Then we got to really start hitting the ground running on this kind of discussion. So it's great ideas, guys, and I think very valid ideas to look into. All right, if that's it, we'll move on to Jane and our budget meeting schedule.
Okay, everybody should have received a proposed 2025-2026 budget meeting schedule, which potentially would start Tuesday. They will all be Tuesday nights at West Runningbrook Intermediate School, and starting with October 1st. And that would be a budget discussion, so we won't be bringing forward a budget. We will just be talking about budget process, what are the components of the budget, particularly because we have all new fiscal advisory members, I think with the exception of one. We have one returning member, so I think it's important to have a base meeting for them to really get acclimated to the budget process and all of our budget departments. So that'll be October 1, and I believe that's the only change that we made to the proposed budget. So if the board is in favor of this new budget meeting schedule, we could send it out to fiscal advisory and board members tomorrow. Does anybody have any issues with the dates?
Any questions? Excuse me. Yeah. Excuse me.
I did it. I'm just questioning November 4th, that's the day before the election. I don't know if that causes a problem or not for people, but I just thought I'd point it out.
We really struggled with the month of November with dates. the one Monday night, and we had to move it that way because there were so many things going on.
No, I agree with you, Brenda. I think it's tough because we don't, because you got Thanksgiving after the 19th, and then there's not much. There's really, unless you change the night of the meeting, that's fine too, I guess. You want to make it a Thursday night or something that week?
It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make it out, just to make it aware.
Okay.
That's all.
All right.
I don't know what it means for the people
But
advisory.
yeah, it might be a lot of people working the election at 6 a.m. the next day, or 5 a.m. the next day. I don't know, guys. Do you want to try to fit in another night that week? No, you.
Monday, Tuesdays are good.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we generally keep the budget meetings to no more than 2 hours. So I'd say, I know these meetings are not timely, but those meetings are almost always 90 minutes to 2 hours. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to make a sacrifice one way or another.
And I think, yeah, it's only the first. I mean, the presentation's the week before, right? The 29th? The actual presentation? Okay. Yeah, we can probably make it a less hard-hitting meeting, that one, since we have two others right after it. So let's try to keep it, we'll try to keep it shorter than we would normally. I actually won't be there, so Michael will be running it. But we will, okay, yeah, I think we should. And Jane, the only other question, a couple of years ago, you had a nice presentation of the whole district. I don't know if you still have it, if you find it. If you do you mind sending it out to the new members, either on the board and the fiscal advisory guys? If you can find it. If you can't, don't worry about it. I just remember it was really good, and it kind of gave a really good overview of the district.
Of the whole district.
Yeah. If you
I
can't,
can take that presentation and modify it because it,
oh, God, yeah. Oh.
but I can do that.
All right. Now, if you got to, I don't want to create extra work. You got the audit. Tuesday the 1st will be plenty for people. If you can just get them the information like that Friday before or whatever, then let's do that.
Okay.
Is there any other questions? All right. I will take a motion to accept the 25-26 budget schedule. First by Jonathan.
Second.
Second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes 7-0. All right, Jane, you're up.
Okay. In the past, I have done I know that we wanted to talk about the unreserved fund balance tonight, and I apologize I wasn't able to get it to be put into your packet. I can put this spreadsheet online tomorrow. These are really just, it's a summary form that Steve and I use to calculate our estimated unreserved fund balance. And why that's important to you is I'm hoping at the next board meeting that the board will be able to, that we'll be able to make a proposal and vote on if you want to retain any funds. And as you may remember, based on RSA 198.4, the district is allowed to retain 5% of our net assessment in unreserved fund balance. So last year, the board voted to retain $800,000, and right now we have no retained funds that have been voted on, and that's what I'm looking for the board to do. I know it's too soon because I'm just giving it to you now that you see the estimated unassigned fund balance, so I would not expect a vote tonight. But I will put together, in the past I've given you a chart that shows scenarios and tax impacts. It's a fun little chart for people, and I think it's a good visual. But Steve and I were still working on this till the very end, right before this meeting. So we ran out of time, but this is a very close estimate of what we anticipate the unassigned fund balance to be, which is it's going to be somewhere in the 2.4 million, give or take. Again, it's unaudited and they are estimates. But what I want to bring to your attention and why I'm going to give it to you in a chart format prior to your next board meeting, so actually we'll send it out next week for you. What I want you to remember is that when we were doing budget setting work last year, we always put in an estimated amount for your unreserved fund when you're trying to do your calculation for your tax impact. And I believe that we put in an estimate of 2 million. So when we look at this 2.4, the board will have to just decide, do we want to retain any of that? Do we want to use all of it to offset taxes? What do we want to do with that? So that's what I'll bring forward for your scenarios for the next board meeting. And by that board meeting, I would need to have a board vote because I have to have that DOE, the 25-page financial report, has to have our unreserved fund balance in there and any retained funds that were voted. So this is just for you the top half just really shows you last year. It's our math, it's how we keep track of it in our finance department. And starting where it says actual activities, it's kind of 3/4 down the page, actual activities for last year, the 23-24 year, you'll see we had 95 million in revenue, we expended 94 million. The 700,000 was a raise and appropriate, if you remember in the warrant article for 22-23, and that was for maintenance repairs. So we are just showing you that, and it's already included in revenue. We're taking it out because the expenditures did not happen in 23-24. They're not booked for 23-24. And then you could see our encumbrances and what our encumbrances are going into 24-25. I left the space blank where I'd normally put in what the retained funds are, and then I would kind of add it back in at the bottom. So I just left that blank. This is just for you to have a base idea of what I'll be presenting to you. I'll send it out to you next week. If I'm able to finish it this week, I'll send it out, but I just wanted to make sure you had something for tonight. That's helpful. Okay.
Quick question. So,
Sure.
Well, not question, really, it was just a kind of, actually, this is another thing we talked about. I can't remember when we talked about it, but one of the, I guess we talked about it many times at many different meetings, is, we're going to obviously go in for a bond this coming year, but long-term, we need to, I think we need to decide with the capital reserves that we have set up, how much money we want to allocate to those each year. And I think we talked about this long-term. So one of the places to start with that discussion is this here, because we've done it, like as Jane mentioned, we did the 1.8 a couple years ago. where we took $1.8 million out of this reserve and put it on the ballot for 2 roofs, which are now complete, or almost, or just about complete. So we should, as we decide, as you're thinking about this process, there's a couple ways you can fund that capital reserve. This is one of them. Still needs to be a vote by the community. Not 60%, it's 50%, if I remember, right?
Well, if you do, you'd have to do a warrant article if you want to put it into a
That's
capital
50, not
reserve, but
60,
you
right?
can do a retained
Yeah.
without, yeah.
So that's one option we can do, and obviously raise and appropriate, which we did as well the same year of 700,000 as the second warrant article that year. So just something to think about. As I think all of us have brought it up at one point in time ad nauseum, thinking of the future. This is where we start this year, and thinking about what that dollar number looks like. Obviously, I would think in the first year, if you get a warrant article passed, you don't need to you could maybe make it a little smaller. We could just.
I think the one thing we had talked about, at least for this coming election, is to not start retaining funds in a capital reserve this year, because there could be confusion between if we have a capital reserve for facilities maintenance projects and a bond for facilities maintenance projects on the same ballot. Jonathan, you pointed out that concern. I think it's a valid one.
Yeah, I mean, totally. But I think at this point, it's all about education, right? And telling people, hey, we're thinking about the long term as well as the short term. This isn't something we hash out tonight. You're absolutely right. We did talk about that.
I mean, I think it's something that, moving forward, we need to be doing every year, because,
Yeah, maybe we skip this year, but.
Facilities projects are ongoing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they,
Yep. No, agreed.
And the retained doesn't send it to a capital reserve, so a retained is really just a exercise. For those who just don't know the accounting, it's just a paper exercise, and it really rolls into your following year. And I'll put the pros and cons and examples so that I think everybody here understands it, but I'm not sure the public understands it. So I'll make sure it's nice and clear on the chart for everybody to see it.
Did you say the next meeting, that's when the decision needs to be made? I missed it. Yeah?
Yeah, I'll need a board vote
Okay.
before the next meeting, and I make sure you get it out
Okay.
in time.
And I'm sure you mentioned the max we can retain is 5%, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and
Perfect.
so you have
Okay.
plenty to work with. I know that was under my presentation. If I could just add one thing left in my presentation to remind people that the free and reduced applications are not only in your school, but they're also online. So we encourage all families who think they may qualify, and if you're not sure, you think you're on the cusp, or you're not really sure what the qualifications are, please apply. Christina Lebelzik, our Director of Child Nutrition, is always willing to work with families to make sure that their application gets filled out. Even if you were approved last year, you still need to reapply every year. We had a couple calls came into our office about that. So we want to make sure that as many families that do qualify get the benefits that they are entitled to.
That rolls also into special ed funding. It's in one of the formulas as far as how many students are eligible for that.
For the reduced lunch there, who sets those guidelines?
Federal government.
Okay. I just find it strange that the more people in your family, they're looking for more money, but how many, typically you'd have 2 incomes coming in, not, if you have 6 or 7 people in your house, usually only 2 of them are bringing in money. So it doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, those are federal forms that we receive and federal guidelines that are set. We don't have any control over those amounts, unfortunately. And it's when you do the application, you're supposed to put all income that's coming in the household. Some households have no income, and that's what they report. Some have multiple. And also for families, the application that you fill out for, if your child is a student in our kindergarten through grade 8 program, is different than if you're attending Pinkerton or next charter school. So
one thing
you
I
have
would
to
say
fill
is
out separate applications if you have a child at Pinkerton and a child in Derry.
You said the link and the application were online. It was online. Is it easy to find? I'll put Cliff. I know he likes to keep his head down and fire away at the laptop, but is it easy to locate? So if folks want to go on and they're not like searching link after link, and is it someplace easily accessible?
I know if you go to departments and food service, it's right
there?
there. But maybe Cliff could also put a link on the
Banner or
front page
something?
for people.
Well, wait a minute.
Right.
Usually the
It's
paper
under the
go home to everybody.
it's under the family section. It says right on it, free and reduced lunch application under the family section. That's as close to the front page as we get with anything.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So I think one of the big things last year we had discussion on, I think there was a bill in Concord for auto enrollment for through Medicaid process. I don't know the exact process, but so one of the concerns was privacy concerns, or constitutional privacy concerns. But I know with state reps running this year, we have candidates, people running. We should really, as a community, emphasize that this is a service that would help us greatly, would help our families greatly. If the only adjustment needs to be made is give them the option to opt in or opt out to an automatic system, which would greatly help the district and help the whole state, not just this district. So I would urge people to talk to their state reps in this town, and whoever's running for state rep, also talk to them as well. And hopefully that can get on the agenda again, and hopefully get some traction, and people understand the true necessity of something like this. I mean, paper and pen is fine, but it's just not reality. And we need more automated systems at all levels. So that's my 2 cents on that.
And the card is the card that students receive. There's no differentiation in color of a card if you're on free or reduced or you're a paying student. So for those families that may seem reluctant because they think that other kids will know their child's on free, there is no differentiation. They hand a card to the cashier, it all looks the same.
Jane, you all good? Okay. Austin, you're up.
Okay, this has been a busier summer for all our custodians and maintenance staff than in any previous year. So tonight I want to say thank you for all the amazing work they have accomplished. I always joke in early August when I visit the schools that there's no way the schools are going to be ready for opening day. And once again, our custodians and our maintenance workers rose to the occasion, and we were ready to go for today. Thank you to all the student summer helpers, every single one of our exceptional custodians, and each of our fantastic maintenance workers for not only getting the job done, but always doing it right. Thank you all. As we open our schools once again, here are some important dates at the beginning of the 24-25 school year. You heard about the open houses that we had yesterday at the schools. And today, of course, you probably heard, this was the first day of school for all kindergarten through grade 8 students, and for the Tuesday and Thursday group at the DEEP Derry Early Education Program. Tomorrow is the first day at DEEP for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday students. There is no school this Friday through Monday for all students, so they and their families can enjoy a 4-day Labor Day weekend. And then school resumes once again Tuesday, September 3rd. It is wonderful to have all of our students and staff in the classroom and in every school building. Welcome back, everyone. We do still have some open positions in our schools and in the district as a whole. So I'm going to update you now. Grinnell Elementary School, special education teacher, student support assistant, math assistant. East Derry Memorial Elementary School, math assistant, student support assistant. West Runningbrook Intermediate School, special education teacher, student support assistant. Gilbert H. Hood Middle School, 3 positions for special education teachers. Ernest P. Barker Elementary School, math assistant, student support assistant. South Range Elementary School, math assistant, student support assistant. District vacancies, special education assistants as a whole, 3 custodial positions, 2 school psychologist positions, occupational therapist, as mentioned before, 1 administrative position, the Assistant Director of Student Services, a school district treasurer, person must live in the town of Derry, deputy treasurer, speech language pathologist, 2 positions, and New England Center for Children, NECC, instructional tutors. Just a reminder, if you are interested in becoming a substitute or continuing to substitute or be a support staff for our district, the on-call day-to-day substitute teacher pay is $105 per day. That pay is $75 per day for teacher assistants, and a substitute nurse is $205 a day, and substitute secretaries are $11 an hour. If you are interested in finding out more information or applying for any of these positions, you can go to our website, sau10.org, and look under Human Resources. Kathy Kennedy, our director, and Kim Kelly, our recruitment specialist, as well as Mary Ellen Tagli-Latella, who is our administrative assistant. Or you can even just call your school and talk to one of the administrators directly.
Austin.
And we thank you for that.
Austin, you don't have to go to the human resources. It's an alert right on the front page. You have to go through that to get to the front page.
Okay, so don't waste your time. Just go to the front page and click on that, and we greatly appreciate it. Yes.
So when we did the budget, not budget process, but when we did the default budget process a few months, well, more than a few months ago, I guess now, we put back in 3 to 4 custodians. Are we already turned over those positions in a few short months?
Right? That's why we have 3 openings. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. But we hope to continue to hire and get them back on board. Finally, the best part of my job started again today when I began my visits to the schools, the classrooms, and offices to speak with administrators, students, and staff. As in my first 2 years as superintendent, I am delivering the 20 and 30-year service pins to staff members so I can thank them personally for their years of dedicated service to the students, staff, and families here in the Derry Cooperative School District. I will take a moment now just to read their names out loud here in public for those employees reaching the 20 or 30-year milestone. We also have a 40, and for that matter, we would give a 50 and a 60, but we did have a 40 last year or the year before. But these are the names of the people that we have that reached this milestone. Amy Landry, who was here tonight as one of the math specialists. East Derry Memorial Elementary School, 30 years in our district. Karina Bovair, 30 years in our district. Ernest P. Barker Elementary School. Also at Ernest P. Barker, Michelle DeCosmo, 20 years. Joseph Sheridan, 20 years. Kelly Aprilli, 20 years. Christine Crawford, 20 years. A district employee who's housed in Gilbert H. Hood, works for Dr. Dancy, Dan Scanlon, 20 years. Gilbert H. Hood Middle School, Kristen Sarno, 20 years. South Range Elementary School, Rose McAfoose and Cynthia Erb. I apologize. Rose McAfoose is our third and final 30-year recipient. Cynthia Erb, 20 years. And West Runningbrook Middle School, Danielle Silva, Carla Curtis Fagoni, Pamela Walsh, and a member of the SAU staff sitting right over here to my right, Laura Powers. I look forward to seeing all of you, each of our new hires, as well as everyone else doing what you do best, contributing to the overall student achievement of every child in our schools. See you soon. Thank you.
So that's awesome for the longevity, and so it was. Jonathan wants to give everyone a round of applause. It's truly amazing. I couldn't imagine being in the same place for 30 years. Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. I think my daughter had a few of those teachers at Barker. Oh, my son, yeah. All right. FYIs, so we got a few donations we got to talk about.
Sure. Walmart reached out to me and was very generous and asked if we could use some school supplies for our students, and they donated washable markers, pencils, crayons, glue sticks. They donated cases of materials that I boxed up and sent them all out to the schools, including the DEEP program. We sent them out there. So huge thank you to Walmart. I believe they said it was valued at about $450. So we want to make sure we thank them for that. And we also received a donation of more than 100 backpacks from the Martial Arts Academy, downtown Derry. And they also had reached out to me and asked if there was something that they could do. They wanted to have their members do some fundraising and put together backpacks. And we've already given a lot out to the schools. There's still some in our office. I reached out to principals and our home to school coordinators, and they actually filled the backpacks before they brought them to us. So very, very generous donation. And the backpacks range from being super colorful for our younger ones to being solid color backpacks for our older students in the 7th and 8th grade. So we really appreciate that donation. They dropped that off, I think it was last week. So thank you again for them for the donations. Much appreciated.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's truly generous and much appreciated. Next, we have committees. I assume we actually have a lot of committees that met this week. Anyone want to kick us off? Or last couple weeks, I should say. Anyone want to kick us off?
Yeah, I got to do these individually for the manifest committee. Can I do that? I'm going to do them all at once, and then hopefully we can just approve all of them. All right. So I will move to approve $16,663.25 in the general fund. I'll also move to approve federal projects in the amount of $73,239.46. I have general fund for $3,287.90, as well as prior year encumbrances of $317,999.86. General fund, $307,638.55. Federal projects, $370.26. And food services of $1,849.26. And two more. General fund of $1,627.91 and food service of $60.
Second.
All right, we have a first by Jonathan, second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes 7-0. Who wants to go next? Yes, I can. We had a transportation meeting last Friday, I think it was, right? So it's no secret that the bus drivers union is negotiating with First Student. I think their meetings are September 10th and 11th at this point to discuss how they're going to move forward. The concern here is the membership has already given an authorization to strike by a 3-to-1 margin. That does not mean they are going to strike. It's just something I guess you got to do as part of the process if you are going to do that. So we will know more. First Student wasn't very forthcoming as of that meeting of a contingency plan. So, we started talking about that at our meeting, but it's something that September 10th will be here sooner rather than later. So Austin and his team will kick this around and think what the best possible scenario is if we have to deal with the worst case scenario. So more to come on that, but that's where we stand from a transportation perspective. Is there anything else? I can't remember.
I'm going to just jump in on that. Bob Thompson, the superintendent in Hampstead, is our South Central region superintendent. He's the president of our group this year, and he's already reached out to the commissioner. And we have a number, there was more towns than I first thought. And he's sending out an email to all of the towns that would potentially be involved, just so as a group of superintendents we can stay on the same page and discuss some things and so forth. I can't stress enough how much we love our bus drivers and how much we know they love being in their buses and driving your children. And we are hoping that this is normal negotiations and will be resolved, because we know they want to be out there and driving. And we were very happy that we were able to start off this school year without any interruptions, and we would like to hope that it will continue that way. But we are all working on contingency plans, just in case.
Yeah, so I think more to come as the information becomes available. And obviously, like I mentioned, Austin leadership team will figure out what to do if we need to go to deal with this, if that situation arises. Like Austin said, hopefully it doesn't. I think there's some positivity that things will get resolved, but that you never know. So we just got to be prepared for whatever comes down the pike on that one. I don't have any more committees. I know legislative met at one point. I think who else met? Did curriculum? Well, we have curriculum, I guess. But you want to do legislative next?
Listen, it's all kind of flowing together. I don't remember if we've had a meeting since, but really the long and the short of it was folks in the room, they really want to support the schools, at least from what they said, they really want to support the projects and getting some things done. Like many folks in the community, obviously shared concerns about what that number might look like. I said, we're kind of in a process of being TBD, but certainly we would, we'll be bringing back whatever kind of direction the board goes into for feedback from them. But it was good conversation. I think that, we generally have a good dialogue in that room. It's just a matter of balancing, the needs of the schools and balancing the needs of the town in conjunction with the taxpayers. So we've got to try to find a way to gain support and gain the buy-in from that team and that group, because we're going to need everybody kind of paddling in the same direction on this. So that was really the bulk of the conversation. I don't know if you have anything to add, Katie. Trying to keep it pretty truncated at this
awesome.
hour,
No, I appreciate it. Just for people watching online and some new people in the room, last year, this process with a legislative committee started several years back, but it got revamped last year, where we have, and part of one of the big things in this, not big things, one of the issues in the survey that got brought up is the school system working with the town, working with our legislators in town, and this committee was refined beginning of last year to a process where it's at least meeting quarterly and having pretty good discussions on the topics of the day, which in this case we know what ours is. But and each group gives their feedback, and there's a pretty good discussion that goes along with that. I think it's been a good first step in a process of collaboration. We haven't quite seen anything really materialize yet, but hopefully that will change in this upcoming year. I have a lot of faith that we can make it happen with the bond, and that's the first step.
One thing to add that I think is important, obviously they're not in session in Concord, but if anybody has anything that they want us to bring to that group, Brenda, Katie, myself, to kind of share with the state legislators as to things that might be beneficial to Derry, to the students, to anything in town that, that might be beneficial and provide that feedback. I think as things come up, or you're reading the paper or looking online and you see something, bring it to one of us. We can bring it to the committee and certainly discuss with the legislators in that room and, try to keep the dialogue going. They have a lot of bills. I know they shared, there's a lot of things that they work on. It's not just education. There's, tons and tons of bills that they're working on. So if there's things that are important to us, and that goes for, Austin and team, the administration, if there's things that come up, please feel free to send it our way. We're happy to bring that to the group for discussion, so.
Yeah, I think one of the big things we talked about tonight is trying to find a way to get the auto enrollment process to make it acceptable to both sides of the aisle. I think would be very, very beneficial. And it's, from a revenue perspective, and obviously helping people get free and reduced lunch so they don't have to fill out the lengthy paperwork or whatever. Well, I shouldn't say lengthy, to do the process. So I think that's one thing really to add to the list is trying to figure out how to get that auto enrollment process working where we're not violating privacy rights per the Constitution, which was the concern I think when it didn't pass last time. So.
And I'm just going to throw this in. I know Jody Nelson and Senator Birdsell were really working hard on that to try to figure that out. And actually, I was hoping that one of them was watching so they would, kind of weigh in on what happened, because I know that they were working really hard on it in the session, they got to the end of the session. So I don't know I don't actually know exactly where it stopped, but I do think it'll come back.
That's good.
Yes, I just have a question. So I know we had our training with Will back in May. So just wanted an update from the policy committee regarding, rules of order, where we stand on that policy and when we should expect a first reading.
Austin, I would put that on your agenda at some point, add it to your lengthy list. We can discuss more if you want offline, but I think John's point is well taken. So whenever your next policy meeting, just add to the list and you guys can go from there.
Yeah, if you want it sooner than later, we could maybe try to have a short policy committee. We have a couple of different policies. Jane has one or two, because normally in the fall, that's big policy season, because once we get the update from New Hampshire School Board Associations, we usually get an update from Sol Leslie Kidder about here's the changes and here's what, then we start pumping up a number of policies. But if you want us to move forward with a few initially, we can do that, and then, I'm okay with that. So I will look into where Jane's at with the policies that she wants to move forward, and we'll look at this policy, which we have updated already. It's just sort of been in limbo, to be honest with you. And we will we'll try to get something scheduled, maybe in time for 2 weeks from tonight. Wouldn't that be good? Well, it's actually 2 weeks from yesterday, I think.
Not to tell you how to do your job, but let's make sure facilities is priority on that one. But yeah, I hear your point. Thank you. Other business. I don't have anything. All I'll say is Michael shared a picture this morning that I thought it was really moving and really encouraging. It was great. It was I think at West Runningbrook, it showed each flag of every elementary school, talking about everyone bonding together. It was pretty creative, and that's not the only thing. I mean, we've seen a lot of. I mean, I talked about an email I got from my daughter's group teacher. I can't advisor. Yes, so it clearly there's a lot of excitement, looking forward to this year, and really embracing the change that's happening to the best of everyone's abilities here, and so it's really nice to see that, because it's really big change, and it's affecting everyone in the district. And you know, it's nice to see the positivity out there, and because as I think I've mentioned before, it's not going to always be that way. There's going to be kinks in the road and ups and downs like any transition of this magnitude. And you know, it's good to see that we're starting the right foot. I'm sure we'll have busing things to deal with as we always do, and you know, we'll work those kinks out as they come up. But you know, just really excited and happy to see the enthusiasm. It's really uplifting. In a role that we have on this board, we don't see a lot of that. We usually see the negative, bad news when it comes to facilities, or you find it, you know, it's just whatever. It's nice to get some good news and really and see. And the presentation tonight is part and parcel of that. So it's greatly appreciated, and you know, it made my day when I saw it. I didn't get to make it to the orientation night on Monday night. My wife did, but it was good to see that. So thank you, everyone in the district, teachers, administrators, support staff, everybody. You know, let's have a great year, and I have no doubt that we won't. You know, with the exception of whatever comes along the way that we'll deal with. So. With that being said, unless anybody else has anything else?
I was going to say, I did go to the West Running Brook open house yesterday, and I mean, it was great. It was incredibly well organized, and I mean, it was a festive atmosphere. You know, I mean, I think the kids were excited, you know, to get into the school and see where they're going to be going next year. You know, I talked to a bunch of teachers. You know, they're all really happy with where they're at, what they're going to be doing this year. And, you know, the school looks great, and yeah, I mean, we saw, you know, all sorts of, you know, friends from throughout town. You know, I mean, we saw a lot of kids that Lennon's been going to Grinnell with for the last few years, but we also saw kids that he knows that, you know, went to East Derry, or, you know, went to Derry Village, you know, kids that he wouldn't go to middle school or intermediate school with, and now they're all together in one place. So, you know, I think that that's a pretty exciting thing. And yeah, but yeah, the event yesterday was great. I haven't seen him since I put him on the bus this morning, but I hear it was a great first day of school.
Hopefully my son's day at Pinkerton's good tomorrow, but hey, you got
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, motion. Oh, we got. All right, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
First by Jason, second by Jonathan. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Have a good night.